calling the meeting to order.
Yep. Welcome to you all. I call to order the Middleton Planning Board meeting at 6:35. In attendance on the Planning Board is Joe Bailey, Spisco, Kate Bizard, Roger Maines, and John Mullen, the chair, and Steve G. Close enough. Tonight's meeting is, we are doing basically a continuance site review of the Middleton Golf Resort Development Plan, but before we get into that, I want to clean up some paperwork real quick before we get into that, although we could probably do that last.
Yeah, why don't we do that last?
We'll do that last. What we're here tonight for is we have a duty to make some kind of decision on the site plan that Mr. Terrio has given us to review. And I want to remind the board that we have a few options to do this. And I would like the audience's indulgence here that through our discussions this evening, if you would, I will allow public comment before we make a decision one way or the other. Okay. So, if you can hold your questions to that, we would appreciate that. We have four choices as I see here. Number one, approve the plan. Give a conditional approval with conditions. Deny the plan, or ask for a continuance, as we have, and as Mr. Terrio has been gracious enough to allow us more time to get into more detail of this development here. I do want to bring everybody up to date in terms of, I sent everybody but you, Kate, because you can't get them, a copy of the...
Yes, I have that, the hard copy. You've given me that. Oh, no, I don't have the new one.
Okay, it's pretty much the same, except this is the final report.
Final report.
Okay, and
Thank
I would request that I'll go over that in detail here in terms of what that is. What occurred was we had there was a Stratford Regional Planning meeting on February 20th due to our intent that there was a regional impact to it. So there were various people at this meeting, and there was a final report in terms of recommendations, and they went over the plan. We were in there for about an hour and a half. Today I've received also 3 letters from, one from the town of Middleton Conservation Commission, and I'd like to read that for the record. The Middleton Conservation Commission has just informed of the upcoming review of the Middleton Airport Resort Project. The Conservation Commission does not make a practice of involvement in other towns' projects except as they may have regional impacts. The town of Middleton, I believe, was not represented at the regional planning. No. Which in this case for this project, and let me start over again. The Conservation Commission does not make a practice of involvement in other towns' projects except as they may have regional impacts, which in this case for this project, and the reasons of our brief comments. The project located is in a sensitive area and the highest priority, Tier 3, supporting landscape for habitat is ranked by New Hampshire Fish and Game Wildlife Action Plan. There are wetlands and streams which support the nearby Jones Brook, which flows through Middleton and ultimately into Salmon Falls River. The town of Middleton's master plan has prioritized the water quality of the Middleton 3 ponds, which is the impounded area of Salmon Falls River. This is also a source of Middleton's public drinking water supply. There is a potential water quality impact all the way to the seacoast. We do not oppose this project, which could be good for the regional economy. However, because because of the potential environmental impacts, we hope that the development will be carried out in an environmentally sensitive manner, including significant buffers located around the wetlands and streams, minimizing impervious surfaces through runoff and erosion control, careful monitoring of the project to ensure that the agreed upon practices are being carried out correctly. After the project is complete, use of fertilizers and pesticides should be following best management practices and should not be carried out near sensitive areas. Signed by the Middleton Conservation Commission. That was received today. Another one that we received today was from the managing trustee of the Carl Simon Family Charitable Trust, which is a private operating foundation and conservation group, and they manage and trust some property south of here in Milton that goes all the way from 153 basically all the way down to 125 pretty much, or 16, yeah, it does go past 16 and around. I'm writing on behalf of the Carl Simon Family Charitable Trust in Milton. The CSFCT is a private operating foundation with conservation and educational purposes. The CSFCT owns 870-acre block of land 1 mile southeast of the Middleton Resort Project. The Middleton town line is on the northwest boundary of this property. The property is managed not only as a conservation land but also as a tree farm in the American Tree Farm system. The Jones Brooks flows through the CSFCT property for about 2 miles and is highly valued in our management plan for its pristine condition. Our property is approximately 1 mile downstream from the proposed Middleton Resort Project. The Jones Brook and its associated wetlands are close to the project's property line. In some areas, the wetlands overlap onto the project property. Our trust is concerned about the impact of tree removal near the wetlands, streams, and springs, including any and all runoff into Jones Brook. The trust is extremely concerned about the long-term use of fertilizers and chemicals that will likely impact the water quality of Jones Brook watershed. The trust has also noted that the New Hampshire Fish and Game Wild Action Plan shows that the project site is to have Tier 3 habitat priority areas within the entire state. Tier 3 refers to supporting landscape areas for proximity of highest habitat areas in New Hampshire. The project lands also shown to support landscape, the project lands are also shown to support landscapes considered to be the highest ranked habitat in the biological region of the New Hampshire Wildlife Action Plan. The trust is concerned that the permanent disturbance of this large block of land will have a negative impact on the health and the wildlife that move and subsist between our common properties. As an immediate neighbor of Middleton, we are asking the planning board to encourage the developer to install the following best management practices to minimize the impact of this development on Jones Brook watershed and the local wildlife. Plant and maintain a natural 100-foot buffer along any springs, seasonal or perennial streams, vernal pools. Plant and maintain a natural 150-foot buffer along the contiguous wetlands in excess of a quarter acre. Use low phosphorus fertilizer using best management practices for application. Use state recommended BM best management practices for application of all chemical treatments. Allow the forest to regenerate in all undeveloped areas. Thank you for your time and consideration. Cynthia Wyatt, Managing Trustee. I thank you for your indulgence, but I have one more, so I'd like to read that also. This is from Moose Mountains Regional Greenway. Dear members of the Middleton Planning Board, Stratford Regional Planning Commission asked Moose Mountain Regional Greenways to comment on the impact of the proposed Middleton Resort development. Since the timing of our board meeting did not allow us to submit comments before the SRPC Impact Committee meeting on February 19th, it was the 19th, not the 20th, sorry. For inclusion in their technical report, we are submitting the following brief statement directly to you. It was approved by the Board of Directors at their meeting on February 24th. Moose Mountain Regional Greenway's mission is to identify and conserve important natural resource areas, including water resources, farm and forest lands, wildlife habitat, recreational areas, cultural and scenic areas, to educate others about these efforts and join together protected lands to form greenways. We do not take a position for or against specific development projects, but respect each town's right to make these often difficult choices. What we know about this proposed development is that it involves an 18-hole golf course, a 57-room hotel on land bordering Jones Brook. This currently pristine brook is a tributary to the Branch River, which flows into the Salmon Falls and eventually the Great Bay. Along the way, these waters are a drinking water source for thousands of New Hampshire residents, so the purity of the water is of utmost concern. Fertilizer and pesticide runoff and runoffs from impervious surfaces, parking lot's roof, can significantly degrade water quality. Loss of tree canopy may result in higher water temperatures, which will in turn affect the aquatic habitat, including that of brook trout and other cold water species. We hope the planning board will keep in mind the potential impacts of water quality and wildlife habitat as you consider the proposed plan. Sincerely, Virginia C. Long, Executive Director. So I wanted the board to take those. I just picked those up this evening before we got here. Take care of those later. All right. Mr. Terrio has two things here we have in your packet. I hope you have in your packet. We've got they sent us conditions of Middleton Planning Board approval. We all have those conditions. They should be there's also I sent you all also a copy of some questions and proposed preconditions of approval that came out of our meeting on last Thursday concerning the project. I also have some other additional questions and concerns that came up today, actually. So, Mr. Terrio, you're here, correct? And Chris Barry, you're, oh, there you are, okay. I'm going to just go over these quickly for initially here, and I don't know which order I should go in, but, and I would appreciate the board members jumping in here anytime, any questions or procedures or anything else. We could address these conditions put forth by Mr. Terrio, or we could take a look at the questions that we have here. Any preference?
Well, maybe the stuff that goes over by Mr. Terry might also go over to see how it affects the questions that we have of what he is suggesting.
So what are you saying now? Use
I mean, this is the stuff he's saying that he has to do.
Well, that, right.
He has to do with everything. I'm saying, if he's recognizing some of these things that we are recognizing as questions we have, then I think what we should do.
Some of these questions that we sent Mr. Terrio were answered at the regional planning hearing. Some were not. But why don't Why don't we start with the conditions that you have, yeah.
Well, we've taken the time to, you sent us your list of questions and conditions.
Yeah,
We've taken our document, your document, and we've answered
okay, well, why don't
to each
we,
one accordingly. If it might save the board a little bit of time.
yeah, that might be a good idea.
If we take it sort of item by item.
Yep. So,
Would you like to run this, or would you like me to move through each question and how we answered each question?
well, we can both do it together. I guess I can start, and a lot of these are, well, number one is the,
Excuse me, any chance for copies for the audience? Thanks.
Anybody else interested?
okay. The DES,
Do you mind?
the DES violation on map 13, lot 10. That still is up in the air, right?
Well, no, we've discussed this ad nauseam in the past, so we don't believe it's up in the air.
Well, I don't mean it that way, but it's, the plan is still not, been put forth yet. It's being worked on, I understand that. We suggest a conditional disapproval which requires all outstanding permits to be received prior to issuance of the building permit. That includes one outstanding wetlands permit related to the lot. That one?
Yes.
Okay.
And what we've discussed with the board in the past is that we would actively rectify that permit. And if DES failed to act on that, that Mr. Terrio was willing to roll that permit into his project permit for the project site that we're under discussion here this evening. So that would be an outstanding permit that would have to be rectified prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Well, where does that stand with the DES right now? You keep, you tell us that you're in mitigation with them, then we get a hold of DES, and DES says, we don't know nothing about no mitigation.
Well, that's not quite true. They did, they have been in contact with,
Keyland.
Keyland.
Oh, okay, well.
Well, Keyland has been.
Keyland has supposedly working on it. Last information I had, which was Friday, is that he will be working on the plan beginning next week with DES in terms of a plan.
No, the plan's already done. What he's doing, he's going in there to sit with them. It's like the fourth revision. And hopefully they've worked out the issues back and forth between them. He's going in to get a final, yes, this is okay, and then we can give them their check and they're good to go. They have a check already to start working on it so that we can legally talk to them about it, and then they get their final. If they approve the amount of the disturbance that they say there is, then they can move forward. But it's the fourth rendition, because they had little changes they kept coming up with each time.
Okay.
So it's real close to being done. That's why I said in the last meeting that if they don't issue it beforehand, then maybe we can leverage this one also, by combining this one. We're not gonna stop the other one from the process that it's going, but.
All right. Status of adjoining properties, which are the two properties where holes 8 and 9 are.
The applicant has a valid purchase and sales agreement on lot 18. And then the condition of approval for this building permit would be that he would close on that property and own it in a fee simple manner. And he is actively working on an easement with the owners of 1813, and they have both been here in the past to testify to that fact also. And we would have a condition of approval that the issuance of the building permit couldn't be granted until those easements were provided to you and finalized.
Okay, do you have a copy of that purchase that agreement, or is that available, or not?
Yeah, I don't have it with me.
Okay, we need.
I just have to check with Quentin Hinton that it's okay to, it's his signature on it also. I have to make sure that's all right, that I provide it to you guys.
I think we would want some kind of proof that's there. Okay.
I think at a minimum, you can just white out the contractual information, the proprietary contractual
Yeah,
information.
we just want it,
Yeah, it's
we
not-
just want it
Yeah,
documented.
There's nothing really proprietary on
We
it.
just want it documented,
Yeah,
if we can. Report describing impact on the watershed. Okay,
So we
how did
just,
your flood? Yeah, this will be part of AOT then, right?
that's right, and we discussed this with White Mountain Survey
Yeah,
considerably, that all of the requirements that the state has requirements for water quality, and many of the concerns that are raised by the abutting towns, Cynthia mostly from Milton, they have to be addressed as part of that documentation, or we don't get a permit, so.
It's also a requirement of our site review.
yeah.
Right.
And I hadn't seen the 100-year flood delineated on any of the plans.
We note that there's a 100-year flood shown in the corner next to Jones Brook.
Yep.
But as part of the alteration of terrain, and we've started this effort for them, we're actually going to map through a HEC-RES analysis where the actual 100-year floodplain is, because currently it's Zone A, which is FEMA's big magic marker line. We've actually gone out and taken cross-sections of Jones Brook, and we've put together an analysis of upstream flow to determine where the actual 100-year floodplain is. And that would be documented in those reports.
Utilities and sanitation, I know we've talked about that,
Sure.
and, but we,
Number 4 seemed to be a shotgun approach, so.
yeah, it
I tried
was a
to pick it-
shotgun approach. There
I
was a
picked it
couple,
apart a
there was
little
a
bit.
couple things in there.
So the,
Go ahead.
the first was the dumpster. We are showing a dumpster on site next to the building. It would be picked up privately through either Waste Management themselves or a private contractor, which would take the refuse to Waste Management.
Okay.
I'm sure there would be a recycling effort also involved in that. Snow storage is always a concern on project sites like this. Snow storage areas are shown as appropriate on the site plan itself. We have a standard note on all of our site plans that says,
I saw it on the plan, it's
Yeah,
on the plan
it would
about
be-
snow removal.
that's right.
The only concern I have on that, looking over the plan here,
Mhm.
in the last couple days, was the, snow storage on the overflow parking lot. That is adjacent, have you taken into consideration that's further downstream than the other one?
It's upstream.
I mean, it's upstream, but I mean, it's right on the edge of the property.
No, that's in the middle of the property.
No,
Oh, so you're talking the overflow?
overflow
to the east?
parking lot, yes, east,
Yep.
goes right to the property line of the parking lot.
okay. I know.
Right, but the snow storage to that is more towards the resort building, if you notice, it's
Well-
away from the property line.
I'm
And all the
just,
flow will actually go back into our pond. On that one, if you notice the drainage, topographical lines of it. That's why we designed it that way, to capture the water as it melts.
page, okay, right here. Now, this is snow removal, storage, right?
That's
Yeah,
Yep.
and
Okay.
it all basically drains down this way and will go back into our pond.
Okay.
The way that goes.
Is that the way the topography, does the topography show that?
Yep.
It would be further in the plan set.
Further than the plan set?
There's our pond right here, so.
There's the pond, okay, keep going, Rick.
I don't know that it actually makes it to the pond, but it doesn't, so the topography,
630, this is 631, that's higher,
Well, the
right?
bottom of our
then it
pond,
moves down.
Okay, okay, you're right here, okay, so, okay, I see what it goes, okay.
we have this 627, so it definitely flows into the pond. The bottom of the pond elevation is at 621, so it'll work its
See
way.
what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
This is this goes right up to the property.
Right. See how it goes from 630 down to
Yeah,
629,
and the pond is,
627.
pond
Pond's
is
right there at 6.
right here. No,
It's on the next page.
that's on the next page.
But it is the bottom of the pond
Okay,
elevation
okay.
is 621, so.
Right here, okay, I got you. Okay.
But there's and even in the BMP menu, there's a long grass distance between you until you get to the wetlands. If you notice, you got a long grass distance. That's why I didn't have them put any snow storage here. So it can melt and go off, and then it's got, 150 feet of grass to go across, so there'll be no silt that'll melt. There's not gonna be a lot of sand because of the porous pavement anyhow in it.
I think those pavement issues have addressed some of the concerns that the three other parties have talked about.
Well, yeah, the largest expanse of pavement, which you get thermal runoff problems from, those are proposed to be porous, so that issue goes away when you use that type of technology. So I think we just finalized.
Yeah, outdoor lighting plan, I knew that was on there.
I got a question going back to some of that stuff.
Mhm.
I think there was septic on there. We have not seen
Yeah,
any.
do you have the plans with you?
I do, that's actually.
Well,
That's
that's on the questions further down.
Yes.
the road.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because I thought it was addressed in those.
No. Number 4 was the shotgun approach, which,
Oh, okay. Well,
number,
I thought that was part of the shotgun.
no. 5, outdoor lighting, I think you've pretty well explained that to us, on the plan and the lighting plan.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it, that's in the thing, so.
Best management practices for the golf course. Conditional approval should be that this manual be utilized at the site and runs with the approval at the site. That does address fertilization, management of
Addresses.
chemicals. Yeah.
Everything. And one thing I want to just bring up is that I'd like that to stay on record at the town, but I don't want that released because that's proprietary. A lot of that stuff that we put together is very, proprietary information as far as being all assembled in one place. It's all available if somebody else wants to go and do it, but that took a lot of time. So keep it on record so we have it here at town, but don't release it out to. If
Well,
somebody wants a page from it that they want to take something, that's fine.
I think anybody can look at it. It's public,
Absolutely.
public information.
Right, but if they wanted to come in and make a copy of the whole entire thing, I have a problem with that. Because it shouldn't be all put together for somebody else to take and go use somewhere else.
Right, because it took you a lot of time,
Yeah,
a lot
it's
of
a lot
money
of
and effort to
effort.
put that thing together.
Right. It's very, very complete.
Septic design and location.
So we've discussed multiple times the two locations. We've shown them on the site plans and shown them, in all
They're
of
not
our
on these
presentations.
plans, though, are they?
No, they're not. What I mean is we've discussed their locations in the past.
Yeah.
So if the board wants to see the actual locations of them.
Well, we're gonna wanna see them eventually.
And what we've been working with DES with, we put together some overview plans for you. The first page shows the actual overview of the site with the locations of the effluent disposal fields. Pages 3, 4, and 5, public want a copy of these at all? Sure. You can share. Okay. They show the actual detail of the design, the construction specifications for the enviroseptic fields. The
This is
location-
part of your application to DES, I would presume, is
That's
that
right,
correct?
that's right. And we've actually had a meeting both with Rob Tardif and Don Draper, I'm sorry. No, that's from Mad Men. Don Bucher, I'm sorry, at DES concerning these plans, concerning the nitrate setbacks, all the issues that go along with sewage disposal design. They liked what they saw, they asked us to finalize these when we received final approval from you. Understanding that you've wanted to see where they're located and how they're designed, we provided them to you.
Yeah, this, I'll tell you something, they were never in this plan or anything else I've ever seen. I know you have discussed, we're gonna put them underneath the parking lot and underneath the driving range, but you never saw, so assume that means nothing. So now we got this, it tells us what it is.
So, much like the other permits, this is absolutely required prior to the issuance of a building permit. Building inspector couldn't issue any building permit for any lot without a sewage disposal design in this town.
Okay, number 8, snowmobile trail.
This is a,
Want me to answer that? I mean,
you
part
can,
of
yeah, it's,
the big problem with delineating a specific spot is if when we use it that year, and Rick's here, if the snowmobile club says, well, why can't we use the next road over? No, your easement's over on this one. There's gonna be a blanket easement that goes across, like there already is on the property that can't
There
be
is a
taken away.
blanket easement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
But I still, we're gonna put another note on this plan that there is an easement to right, to pass and repass for the snowmobile trail. And we'll delineate it, and I put that in the notes to Chris, that we'll delineate it each fall with the snowmobile club. We'll buy orange fence to put on all through the property to get it out onto the access road coming in from Ridge Road where we have that actual sidewalk, the 8-foot sidewalk. We'll delineate it right out to there. And the bridges that we make across the overflow parking that crosses that wetland will actually be, an H20 rated bridge so that their machine can go over
So
that
each
bridge.
year it could change, but the easement is still there, but it will be so marked.
Absolutely, we'll get together with them in the fall
Okay,
and
that's-
say,
that
did
should-
this work last year, having it here? Would you wanna move it to the next, because we have 3 different roadways that connect back to that parking lot, so.
That should be noted, that you will do that.
Yep,
Yeah.
That should be on the final set.
yep. And is that good, Rick? I mean, you're with the snow.
Yeah, that's fine, so basically that'll be an indefinite permit, we won't have to get
Oh,
something
yeah.
signed every
No,
year,
it
3
runs,
or 5.
it's already, we made sure it was on the property and in the approval when we did last time. And this won't negate it, but we're gonna put a note on the plan that says that we can delineate it
I
each
got the
fall. or
original
something.
plan, it was in there from day one, so
Yeah.
I guess we don't have too much problem with that part
Yeah.
of it, so.
Yep.
But I want to ensure that you delineate it each.
Yeah, absolutely, each fall, when we're getting done golfing, when everybody's done, we'll lay it out. Roll out the snow fence and mark it, so that way the snowmobiles aren't driving all over the place out there. That's just for our benefit more than anything, and yours too, so
Right, yep.
everybody stays on the trail.
Okay, number 9. Kate, you brought this one up, number 9, about
Oh, yeah.
ponds and cisterns.
Yeah.
State would not permit the cistern because Middleton has a sighting of the bridal shiner
It
recorded
wasn't
with,
the cistern, it was the fire hydrant, the dry hydrant in the brook. A cistern is actually an enclosed thing that has nothing to do with the brook. So-
Yeah.
We're talking about fire, all of the fire guys wanted a cistern. When
Right.
yeah.
Right, but
But you said you couldn't do it because the state wouldn't permit because of the,
no, what I said was that they wouldn't let us put the dry hydrant in the stream because of the bridal china.
all right, then
So a cistern is a concrete tank that goes in the ground that usually,
it ensures there's water there.
yeah, but a lot of times they're dry, a lot of times when they go back to try and pull out of them, so that's why I hate using cisterns. If you have a good water source
So
that you know
that's
is there, and that's why we said
Would not permit the use of a
dry hydrant
dry
in the
hydrant
stream.
in the stream.
So,
Thank you.
and the same thing with our ponds, we need the water to be there for irrigation, so if the ponds end up being that which they won't, I've been on that property for 7 years, because it's a good clay base to them, if they end up that they leach out, we're gonna line the ponds anyhow, so they'll always have water in them for the dry hydrants that we're gonna put in there. So the ponds will end up being lined, so they're not losing water.
and we
You
do,
got some information on that through
Yeah.
a company, didn't you?
How about a pool?
A pool, what, in the building?
Yeah.
Not in this spot, we don't have the room inside the building to put it in. We're gonna have internal tanks in there that provide more than what the NFPA regulation says that you need for the 8 minutes or whatever it is for the sprinkler system. And then after that, it will draw to fill those up as they're being drained down from the pond to fill it. And I was actually at Atkinson today, and they actually have Siamese connections on both ends of the building, which I didn't even think about. But we'll probably put a Siamese connection for the fire department on the back so they can come around and hook to that if they're pumping out of the back pond.
So you will have tanks
And then
inside the building, is that correct?
Right, and then you have a Siamese connection, which they hook their trucks to with their pumper truck. If they're pumping out of a pond, they roll their hose connected to the building, then they're pumping directly into your sprinkler system.
That would be part of the code.
Absolutely, that's something that we'll work on with
Okay.
John, but we'll do it on both sides of the building. Normally only required to have it on one side of the building, but since this is such a large building, we'll put it on both sides.
Okay. Alteration of terrain permits timetables for issuance within 30 days of funding. The applicant is committed to filing the alteration of terrain with both towns in 50 days from conditional approval. Should be alteration of terrain permit to be issued and copy submitted to town of Middleton prior to the issuance of the building permit.
So basically what we're saying is, they want $20,000 something. I don't have $20,000, we'll give them before we get going. That's why I said, once it's funded, then we're gonna continue on and get the alteration train. We're not moving a speck of dirt out there until we get our funding in place. But we need, it's a catch-22, we need to get the approval, then the funder is okay, we're gonna move forwards, and he'll give us the money to finish the state permits.
And AOT takes 50 days to review typically. That's why,
End of 50 days.
that's right.
Anybody's got comments? I don't want to run the whole show here. I'm doing all the questioning here. Number 11, wetlands and fill permit, Army Corps of Engineers. Yeah, condition of approval should be a dredge and fill. That's part of your AOT.
No, they're separate permits, but
Wetlands is-
But it's wetlands permit,
Right, correct, part of the wetland.
and I'm sure that will be required.
Absolutely.
the Army Corps and the state have an agreement. It's called a programmatic general permit, PGP. So sometimes the Army Corps, if they, for whatever reason, it could happen for any hundreds of reasons, if they decide that you don't qualify under the PGP, they do what they call a kick-out, which means that you're required to have a separate Army Corps permit. It doesn't typically happen, but it can happen. So I just note in there that, though typically they're in tandem, you would need both prior to the building permit.
Yeah, and I see that's on your plan here.
That's right.
So,
Number 12, sewage disposal, review approval. See number 4, I think number 4 referred to. Oh, the dumpster, yeah, I wasn't thinking, that's
Redundancy.
dumpster, that's not really sewage. Sewage is your sewage plant,
Septic design.
septic design, which is number 7.
I'm
Right.
sorry, yeah, I must have misreferenced.
Okay,
I
that's
apologize.
all right. New Hampshire DES Community Water Supply Permit.
So we fall under it's not actually a community water supply, it falls under public water. It's called the Transient Water Supply System, a TWS. You need the same permit for it, there are just different requirements to get the same permit.
It is, we're not a large draw, because with the Nottingham project that went in down there, I was actually on the Conservation Commission, there was no set standard by how many gallons per day was a large draw, and they set it at 50,000 gallons, and we're around 20,000 gallons here. You still have to report each
40,000
year.
gallons per day?
Per day. So, and that's if we're at full maximum capacity, at maximum available. So if we, and that's why our effluent system is based roughly on that amount, roughly. Because what you take out of the ground, you gotta put back in somewhere. So you have to report and you have to monitor how much water you were drawing, anything over the 20,000. We were a little under it, but I just said we're gonna do that monitoring, have it metered, and you put a report in every single year to the state so they know how much you're withdrawing from it.
Yeah, it's 20,000 gallons per day.
Per day.
600,000 gallons per month.
Correct, because of the 30-day,
And that requires a withdrawal permitting process.
correct. And it's called transient because it's not for the community to use in their homes, it's because you have transient people coming in and staying on site.
That's right there.
that over so I can refer to it in the minutes.
I also got this.
Yep.
Okay, this has to do with frequently asked questions regarding large groundwater withdrawal. The reason that I got this, and I'm glad you addressed it, was that that wasn't discussed a lot at the hearing, and Stratford Regional, a bell went off in Cynthia Copeland's head about the golf course in New Durham. So if you're gonna have to put, and we'll get into with the wells later, so as long as you're aware that this has to be done, then it has to be done.
And we've actually, our well radius is 200 foot, which it doesn't need to be, but we've made it that size and centered the well so it doesn't even come close to the property line.
Well, we'll get into the wells a little bit, because you got wells in two different spots.
No, there's only one well.
Is there one well, or did I
One well.
misread the print?
Yeah, it's just, it looks like when you go from one side to the other, it
Okay, okay.
looks like it's in a different area.
That is a well that's gonna supply the building.
We don't have any wells for the, any.
You don't have plans
No,
for
we're not.
wells for the, okay, so it's gonna be runoff and rain and,
Yep, only.
So you're gonna be using those ponds for your sprinkler systems for the
okay,
course?
okay.
It's irrigation.
Okay.
Yeah, irrigation.
That's why we've designed the site that way, to maximize where the water runs now, to capture it.
Right, you have runoff off the building that goes in.
Right.
Conditional approval will be, this is 14, holding tank registration, conditional approval will be that this registration be submitted and proof of receipt for building. Okay.
It's for the grease traps.
What's that?
That's for the grease traps.
And they're not technically holding tanks, because holding tanks don't have any outlet, so,
Okay.
but we still will go through that process. The holding tank has no outlet for it, and these are all considered under the subsurface permit, not necessarily just the holding tank permit. Because that's why holding tanks have a separate permit, because they have to have a pumping schedule set up, and bonds and all that stuff. Ours flows after that.
That was your question?
But we have in the manual, I don't know if you saw that, in the manual and on our septic plan, we're gonna require that if we're in operation, that it be pumped every quarter, I think, which is way more than you have to normally pump those things, but we wanna make sure that nothing,
What's the size of the grease
Is that
traps?
in your SOPs right now?
it's in the
Best
manual,
In
and it's
your
gonna be
manual?
on that, on the septic plan, and we're getting our approval, so that they
Okay.
know, that it has to be done.
What would be the size of your holding tanks for grease traps?
They're the same size as your septic. They're sized exactly the same, so really, it's just like if you had a garbage disposal, where you double the size, roughly.
Largest is 5,500.
Right, so they're big, you know, they're really, because we actually have 6 different septic tank systems going to each
Okay, this is all on-site utilities to be installed in the ground. I think that's on the print.
Yeah, we're doing that.
Agreed.
It's noted on the print there.
Right.
I was looking at that print the last couple of days with a
Magnifying glass.
magnifying glass to look at some of those
Yeah,
things.
it's small print, you gotta use a magnifying
You
glass.
got your bigger set. I know there is one.
Okay, 16, a pre-construction meeting is required before construction activities take place. Those present should include the owner of record design and construction manager. That will be White Mountain, by the way. Town or designee, town or designee, and head of the planning department or designee. That was a pre-construction meeting.
Do you have your building inspector? I didn't hear anything about building inspector. I guess you're
He's
not important.
right there.
He's sitting right
I
there.
guess you're not important, John.
Santa Claus there.
We're gonna let them open up in a little while.
Okay, 17.
Few questions.
All right, this is, will we defer to the planning board any traffic design patterns established with this project? If restrictions are imposed, we'd recommend that the mechanism be in place into the restriction in the event that we develop problems. The mechanism of changes in place, we can go to the planning board selectmen with any concerns, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I think you addressed this traffic survey, and this really pertains to your roads, Rick, in terms of traffic and police department was concerned, expressed a concern down the pike, which you promised to, you've indicated here that you'll do another traffic study in 2 years to indicate what type of flow. Is it impacting the roads, do we need the traffic patterns and that kind of stuff? Okay, so that was addressed, and that's addressed here.
It's 2 years after build-up.
2 years after build-out, correct. Condition,
And you addressed that at Stratford Regional too, because
Yeah,
that was a
and
question
we're-
that they
but
asked.
we should, the concern that we have here, are the concerns, I have some additional questions that I put together today that I can go over. My concern is, if we determine through the traffic study that something has to be done to the road, we have to put a stop sign up here, or a traffic light. How are we gonna handle that? Who's gonna pay for that?
Well, we're gonna pay for anything that we're causing, because we don't want to
Okay.
have issues with people getting in and out of the resort. We don't want them big traffic jams when they're leaving
So-
and coming in, so that's, I mean, but if there's something that's going on down in Route 11 in
No,
Rochester.
no. So what I would like as a condition, and I'm throwing this out to the board,
Right.
okay? I don't wanna do all the talking.
No.
It's in there, John.
You're doing good,
It's
John.
in there about,
Number 18.
you know where I'm going with the condition.
Sure, and so we've got 3 items there. If the right
Oh,
turn.
okay, I gotta turn the page.
Sure, if
Yeah.
the right turns from the side driveway exceed our assumptions from the original report, we will rectify that through either education, signage, or other means of mitigation required at the applicant's expense. Ridge Road from the intersection of the project site is to be assessed at the intersection, and the not to the intersection, but the Ridge Road here is to be assessed again in the same report, and mitigations such as widening, lane line delineation are required. That would be at the applicant's expense. And the 4-way intersection, which is really 1 throughput and 2 stops, at Kings Highway will be assessed for its capacity. And if mitigation, lane delineation, turn-based signage, etc. is required, it will be at the applicant's expense.
And I think, I think it's a good idea. Wouldn't limit it to after 5 and 10 years. I would say if we notice that there's a problem, I mean, you know, not.
Don't wanna tie it to the ownership, wanna tie it to the ownership of the place.
Yeah.
Right, but
Tied
that-
to the property,
but
that's
that's-
not you, but.
Right, and
the
then make
property.
sure that it's, you know, we address it on the plan, that it's not just, like somebody mentioned, a 5 and a 10-year span. I mean, why would you wait until 10 years out if you're having a problem 6 years out?
Those were my comments,
Oh.
because I'm not quite sure I understand. It says be that 2 years prior to full build-out, a condition of approval subsequent be that 2 years prior to full build-out, a traffic study be conducted. And I'm just not understanding prior to full build-out.
No, that should be after, right?
I think it's after.
And I'm concerned that that a business, and I've been told a business with a scope doesn't really get going in 2 years. You
That
don't
should
know
be
what you're.
after.
After.
All right, well then, that ends my confusion on that note, but,
No, it's,
but I just didn't wanna
Course.
limit it to 2 years. I didn't think that was
Yeah.
sufficient time for traffic to be built up. And
Absolutely.
of course, what I really wanna hear is comments from the audience of people who are actually gonna be directly impacted by the change in their traffic.
post.
Okay. 19, this was a request of police department and the fire department, and what they're looking for is a structure this size is the largest structure that we'll have in Middleton. And they would use it, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, to be able, if something happened, they would know where the layout of the building, where things are, and if they could, Sergeant Brown had asked if they could have a CAD plan or DCX or format that they can use.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's not a
For
problem,
their-
but I don't know how they would utilize it, you know, unless you have the same software that we have, so. Like,
We give them a DXF, we give them a PDF.
yeah,
Okay.
PDF is more the best thing, that way they can have it, they can open it up on somebody to view it on a tablet or whatever the technology is.
Yeah, he was talking about something, he could make a 3-dimensional scale out of it or something like
Yeah,
that.
he has, I believe they have software that they.
I mean, technology is allowing us to use, you know, maybe a tablet or something we
Right.
keep in the command vehicle.
Right, yeah, that's what I was
So-
saying.
so if we do have an incident, we can
Right.
upload that quickly.
Well, I foresee that we'll do probably training and stuff there at the same time. You know, since this is the only one they really have, I mean, I can see us working.
Absolutely.
Training as we get this thing online and as it's being built, bringing the departments in, even the surrounding towns, bringing
Well,
them in.
okay, I think you've addressed this would be a
Yeah.
conditional of approval prior to issuance of building. Prior permits, we've addressed those. Assurance of reporting water quality test, the condition of approval will be that the applicant conduct water quality tests in Jonesboro, so provide brief. I think that's,
And I have a better thing on mine than you do.
well,
copied
I
and
think that's in the plans itself, is it not?
It is too, but also in this DMP manual, it's very extensive. I spent a lot of time
Okay.
in that. trying to figure
In that light, in terms of water quality, I don't think you were here, and I'll give you a copy of, there were,
I heard, I was standing up.
oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah.
There were communication from Moose Mountain Greenway. There was also Branch Hill Farm with a Carl Simon Family Charitable Trust. And they mentioned some things down here concerning Town of Milton, also Conservation Commission was talking about significant buffers located around the wetland stream, minimize impervious surface. I think minimization, at least it appears, that's what you're doing. Careful monitoring, practices, non-practices being carried out correctly, fertilizer, best management practices. Milton wasn't there, Moose Mountain wasn't at the regional, and neither was Carly Simon. So, but Carly Simon, I'm sorry. Carl Seaman, apologize for that.
Dating yourself on that one.
That's dating me, I think, a little bit. On the, I'll call it the Branch Hill Farm, plant maintain a natural 100-foot buffer along any springs, seasonal perennial streams, or vernal pools.
We don't have vernal pools.
No, we don't have any, you did a study on that, right?
Yeah.
Where is that study? Is that on the original plan? Do you have
It's
a?
on the existing conditions plan.
It's up.
If we had vernal pools, it would show on the existing conditions.
Okay, okay, that's a question I had. So, does everybody understand that?
Yeah, I'm here, sure.
Okay. So, what's your comment on a 100-foot buffer along any spring, seasonal, perennial streams? That property's,
We're a lot further than 100 feet even from the Jones Brook where we're doing anything out there, so we definitely
Okay.
are. That's gonna be Kate's job, we do that. She's had a compliance now.
plant maintain a natural 150-foot buffer along any contiguous wetlands in excess of a quarter acre.
We do have that on a lot of it. I mean, if you look at, over a quarter acre, there's not a lot of wetlands that are that, because they're a lot of the spots. But, we do have pretty good sized buffers. Natural buffers.
Is that noted on the plan?
Yeah, you can see it right on a lot of the.
Is that on the plan there, the buffers?
So you can see where the construction activity is
Right.
in relation to the wetlands.
Especially uphill of the wetlands, usually downhill of wetlands, it's not as critical on the buffer side of it. It's usually uphill, so you have a good vegetative strip before you get to it.
Low phosphorus fertilizers, that's in the BPM, that's, also, chemical treatments, we went over that, that's in there also. All forests to regenerate on undeveloped lands, I think that's, in the criteria on the land anyway, or on the regeneration, is it not?
Yeah, we're actually gonna infill with plantings and stuff to try
Yeah,
to get
but
it to come
there
back.
are, for example, of course it doesn't apply to this particular project, on your residential lots there, I believe, behind
There's
is
a
supposed to
300-foot buffer, yeah.
regeneration.
You never even touch that, yeah, that's not me, the person before did.
Okay, anybody have any problems or any concerns about those, in terms of what Mr. Terrio has indicated that they will do, not do?
No, I read his BMP.
Okay,
I'm just, the only problem I have is how are we gonna, how do we guarantee that, say, for future ownership?
you can say that.
You know what I mean,
the-
how do you keep that going over the years?
On the,
On water quality, on all of that?
Well, it's spelled out in here,
Yeah,
and
it
this is
is,
a
and
condition
it
of
is,
approval.
but
So they have to cease
who
and desist.
revisits that?
Well, it would be if there was a complaint by somebody, there's somebody really
Complaints.
well.
The planning board can, and I think, along with building inspector, can monitor the property, monitor the water quality with the
So
help
you-
of the
you're gonna be creating water quality reports, and the building inspector could have access
Well,
to
we're
that.
gonna, well, if you notice in
Yeah,
this, you didn't do your homework.
I did read it.
But in there, it says that we would provide those reports
Yeah.
to the town every single year.
I saw
So it's
that.
your,
So,
It's,
job.
best
no, it's not gonna
management-
be
the
my
best management
job, but
practices.
the Office of
Yeah.
Conservation Commission.
yeah, and I put that in there, I put, whichever one who gets designated by the town would be in charge.
Right.
We're testing Jones Brook in 3 locations.
Yeah, we saw that.
And as soon as you see a nitrogen or phosphorus level go out of whack, it's gonna be somebody's job at the town.
And we don't foresee that ever happening.
Right, to tell Chuck.
No,
We
it would
need
be
to
addressed
find-
before.
right.
The manual says that it gets addressed before, but the reports and how it's gonna be mediated come to the town too. So it's all very proactive in there. So if there is a change, and you can see that it's a change, not just from a seasonal change, because levels always go up as the stuff decays, but
That best management practice will be part of the
approval.
approval,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We write it for fun.
and that goes along with the property,
It
because you
stays
have
with
lose
it.
it, it stays with the property.
Okay, wildlife habitat, wildlife corridors per Stratford Region draft. This is investigation of fish and game reviewing the project and preliminary secondary reports.
When we file our wetlands permit,
Yep,
we're required to work with
fish and game.
Miss Tuttle from Fish and Game.
We already have the report, because we know the bridal shiner is what
Right.
shows up as the.
Well, we'd like a copy, you have that report?
Yeah, we actually do. I think Alden brought it with him at the last time we were with you, with the list from the Fish and Game, because we turned that
From
back
the
in.
previous,
Yeah, it's all part of the same, when we do the new one, it'll be again, we'll give it to you, but.
You don't have it done yet?
From the previous subdivision?
Yeah.
Not the last meeting that we had, no.
No,
Yeah,
from the wetlands package.
right, the wetlands package that came to you originally, so it's here somewhere, that it's on there, the list, but it'll come again when we do this next wetlands permit. It'll be the same thing, because it's contiguous with whatever.
this is on the original property, is that
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's up.
Yeah, so, but it'll come back again, the same hits will come back from Fish and Game.
Okay, 24, paving versus non-paving.
Yeah, he's using, that was my question.
No?
I was looking for like percentages of
Um,
permeable, I don't know if you have that kind of,
Yeah, we don't,
that's all right.
we can, I could
You're
count
using,
it and show it on.
you're only using non-permeable in places where you're requiring large trucks to
That's right.
pass and
Just
repass,
the access
and
road and
everything
then
else
it
is
goes
gonna
around
be
the back of the
permeable.
building, that's it, that's the only impervious surface.
And the non-permeable, and the permeable requires a lot of maintenance, from my understanding.
That's right. And that's
Well,
it.
no, not a lot, it requires the proper maintenance. It doesn't require any more maintenance than normal pavement, but if you don't maintain it correctly, it requires a lot of maintenance to fix it,
Remedial action.
remedial action. So that's the difference. I get a little upset when people say it requires more
No,
maintenance,
I'm
it's
glad you
actually
cleared
less
that up for me,
maintenance.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what, that was my understanding.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, if you don't, and this took me a long time to get, because I've been in the industry for so long. If you have something where the ice or whatever just goes right through it, and you don't have to salt it or sand it, because when it rains, the water goes right through. So you're not putting as much sand and salt and all that stuff on it, for the maintenance, as you call it, as you go through.
Okay, you have on page 13 of this one here, you talk about porous pavement, and this is on the main parking lot. Porous pavement, but then you have bituminous concrete, I guess that's hot top, right?
That's the driveway.
Where's the delineation?
Only the drive lane here. So maybe you can do that, Chris, show a shadow line of where the non-porous pavement is.
Yeah, I had that as a condition of our approval, Mr. Chairman. The condition of the approval will be of the applicant's engineer. I clearly defines in
Oh.
the project site plan
So
where
yeah,
porous pavement is
you're way ahead.
and not used.
I don't know the percentages, cause the access road is pretty long, so I
Yeah.
don't know what the percentages, it's probably about 50%, I would think, just looking at the site.
Well, the only reason that I would say we wanna see where the delineation is, within the site plan is so that it does occur.
Absolutely.
Cause maybe.
Well, the site wouldn't work if we didn't put it in
Well,
the way it's designed, so it has to be installed the way that he designed it.
Okay.
But that's a good idea.
All right, Rick, this is your question. Then after this, you can hightail it, I guess. Middleton Road agent confirm in writing recommendations. You don't, this has to do with the turnout. And the driveway permit is a driveway permit, I guess that's, he hasn't submitted driveway. But the turnout, is that problem?
And I don't see any problems with any turn lanes down there if need be. I mean, they feel that they're gonna need them. And like you said, the traffic study's gonna be down the road. I can't tell what the traffic's gonna be, nor can they, but if they're suggesting they think they need a turn lane and they're willing to do it, then maybe we ought to do it before it even happens. But I can't tell you the traffic impact, like you said, they're gonna do the studies.
Yeah, we are putting that turn, the slow down, what do they call it, deceleration lane?
Yeah, it's the same
We
thing
are
they did
putting
on
that.
Adams Way, right?
Yep,
Same
exactly.
Does
thing.
that deceleration lane gonna need culverts underneath it? Or does it affect the culvert area there at all? No, okay.
What about the location of the emergency road? Come over here by.
I got a question later on.
Oh, all right.
Well, you better stick around.
Well, he can,
Is that,
well, I can address that now.
do you know where they're gonna be putting that in and?
Okay,
No?
I have a question for you on the fire. We talked about the fire road being maintained and accessible during all weather, okay? Looking at the plan, the road, will that road be constructed sufficiently to handle fire equipment? Will it be wide enough?
It's 18 feet, yes.
18 feet, is that sufficient there?
Yeah.
Okay, the bridges will be capable of
No bridges.
what are they gonna be?
Culverts.
Oh, okay, there'll be culverts, okay, very good. So those will be sufficient, okay. The turning radius, at the end of the runway is pretty sharp.
Turning radius.
Well,
Around.
around the end of is that
It's actually not sharp, it might look like it on the plan, but that's a pretty wide radius. I could back my low bed around that.
Did you look at that in terms of, looking at the plan, I was just concerned about the radius, can equipment get back there?
I think you addressed that on the
Yeah, I
answer.
mean, we've run a template on it, we think we can.
74-foot long vehicle,
The
is what the
chief-
template says.
If the chief wants us to fatten it up, we can.
There wasn't
Okay.
any rhyme or reason
Um,
for that radius. It was more to get the snowmobile trail to fit into the other access
Well, I would be
across
more,
the other property.
no offense to snowmobilers, I'd be more concerned about getting equipment back there if you had to.
Right, and it's a 72-foot vehicle. I mean, my big low bed that we move equipment on, you could back around that corner, so you could basically take one of those big fire trucks that have an inch.
Chris, could you make a note and just on the delineate the radiuses there to make sure
Yeah,
that there's.
absolutely.
What finish are we having on the road, on that
Paved
emergency
surface.
road? It's gonna be paved?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be what?
Paved,
Paved,
with typical pavement, not forced,
okay, like a golf cart,
bituminous kind.
like 2 minutes concrete.
Same as, I mean, by the time that gets constructed, we'll probably have the on the top part, well, we're building the rest of it, we'll have figured out whatever we're gonna do up on that residential part. So it'll be the main road coming in up to that section.
Okay,
And then you're gonna maintain all that stuff, Chuck,
Yeah.
nothing, you
That's
wouldn't,
all
nothing
sanded.
from us, right?
Is that gonna be gated at all?
Yeah, we'll have the, typical crash gate. It'll start out up on the edge of Kings Highway, and then once whatever the residential road's built, it'll be after that section, so that nobody will get access.
PD fire department will probably gain access to
Yeah,
that with the
yeah.
key. Okay.
on that access road, a resident has asked me about possibility of putting, that's that's been cut down pretty flat. About putting up some shrubs or trees or something to kind of,
That was the question I asked you
Yeah.
last time.
He asked me, I said, I don't mind Mr. Todd's property, it looks all right to me.
I'm not talking about Mr. Todd, I'm talking about.
That's what I was trying to
from the road.
explain in
It's
front of
it's
the
kind of a, now, right now, it looks like a war zone, okay?
I think that they're gonna like to see it when you can look out across the course and see out there, so we'll address it. If somebody has a problem with it, we'll put screening up, but I think most of the town's gonna
Well,
want to see it.
there's not a lot of, you're gonna have to have the road accessible, so you're not gonna be able to do too much, but
Right.
some resident asked me about that.
I thought that they were talking about screening for Mr. Todd's house. I'm like,
No,
that's
no,
his
no,
house.
no, no,
I
no.
can't screen his house from the
It's along
road.
Kings Highway, just to,
You're
but
talking about maybe some arbs along the front there.
Right.
If it,
Right.
pretty flowers or something.
Yeah, if it comes down to the point where it gets
Something
addressed again.
easily maintained, John.
Well, it will be, because that will be the residential entrance, will have nice stone walls, and that'll be real nice. over
If
there.
that occurs.
Yeah, if that occurs, so that'll be addressed. Right now, it's just, you don't wanna make it inviting either, so people are trying to get around it and go down
Okay,
there.
please note proposed strategies to combat potential flooding issues impact wetlands. That is all, okay. We've addressed those, that's the alteration of terrain. Detention ponds, now those detention ponds, are they sufficient depth?
to detain,
Well, to need the same amount, the water that you need. I mean, they're what, 7 to 10 feet deep? Is that sufficient to,
the detention systems really don't need that depth. The only reason we're designing them to have that depth is so that you have available water in the pond for irrigation.
okay. I don't know if that's,
Well, the size of the ponds is big, so, and the volume is a lot more than what we need, and to control the runoff even more.
well,
So
you have, yeah.
we need the extra freeboard too for in the fire ponds for the winter time when you have the ice flow above them. That's why you make them deeper. So, was it a concern that they were too deep, or?
I didn't know. I didn't know if they were deep enough. I don't know. You're saying that they are.
Yeah, they're much deeper than we would.
So how many gallons were those? One is what?
One is 30,000 square feet and it's 7 feet deep, so whatever ridiculous math that comes out to.
I think we figured it was 5 million gallons.
That's right, it's 30, actually it's 33,000,
Right.
Yeah,
a little over a third of an acre. So
and that's our smallest one, actually.
Cubic foot's 7.48 gallons.
that's fire pond
Right.
1.
That's our point.
And the ones
Right.
out back are even larger,
But the one out back,
That's almost an acre, isn't it?
30,000.
the one out back, I don't see that I didn't see that on the plan anywhere. That kind of,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, maybe.
I saw
Point it out.
two. I didn't see
I see 2. There's 2 that I saw.
There's actually 3 right on that plan. So you got the one out front,
One out front,
you have this one right by the proposed pond,
right?
and you have the other building
Oh,
here.
Yeah, I didn't,
And then also, we have this one up here,
Yeah.
and over here.
Yeah.
This one here is actually gonna be a fire pond, eventually, if this becomes residential, whatever, this will be another fire pond for the fire department access. So if there's fires on that side of the town, they can come in here and draw water from it, once that becomes.
why did I miss that?
It's okay.
It's probably
Magnifying
I won't
glass
hold it
broke.
against you.
Huh?
The magnifying glass broke.
Yeah.
A 30,000 gallon, a 30,000 square foot pond, 7 feet deep is 1.5 million gallons.
And I think they're gonna be a lot deeper than that. There'll be 4-to-1 slopes down in there until both slopes touch in the middle, is what they'll be. And if it's where the hydrant is, then it'll go down to a depth so that you get enough area on the bottom to put the stanchion up in the bottom.
Chief, well, how do they flush those? Do they flush those every so often, those hydrants?
Yeah, I mean, a couple times a year, we like to, have a training, maybe, set up like a mock, fire scene, and at that point, we actually back flush them.
Black bush?
And get away anything that's on the screen,
Yeah.
allergy, and then we, draw it off the trucks. But, you know, they need to be maintained, you know, and checked.
All right, 29 here. Strategies to combat impacts, and I think you, as we explained, the impact analysis, areas of least impact have been chosen for all crossings. Crossings are proposed to be perpendicular to landscape crossings, head walls, I'm sorry, guardrail, slopes, bridges. Any questions on that?
For the scope of the project, we actually had, what, 3 times more impact on the runway than we have on this whole entire other 160 acres or whatever it is. So I think we've done well minimizing the impacts on the weather.
Adverse effect of groundwater, that's with the alteration of terrain. We've already discussed the large groundwater withdrawal calculations and permits. Is that, you know, the usage metering, is that on the, is that, so you said you would monitor the usage from the
Yeah, we have to.
what, you have to?
Yeah, we have to send a report every year into the state.
Bacteria, heavy metals, have to monitor the flow and the quality every year.
All right, size and depth of ponds, we've already talked to that, hole 16 and 17. The burn is proposed at an elevation of 625, and the bottom is proposed at 618. Blowing, depending on the needs of the irrigation system, surface area is 31 ton, actually, so it's, yeah, okay, the answer to that one. Okay, here's a question that came up, and I think you addressed that. Are ponds applicable for sprinkler systems? I think you.
You're talking irrigation, right?
Sprinklers.
In
No,
the
no, no,
building?
no, no.
Building
In the
sprinkler
building,
system.
in the building.
Yeah, the
Yes.
only pond that will regenerate the sprinkler if it needs more is the one right behind the
So
building.
you will fill those tanks, is that what you do? You fill those tanks?
First, yeah.
First, okay, and they will
They stay
remain
full.
full.
Thanks.
And then if there is an issue, then you will draw water from the fire pond / irrigation 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Is this system gonna be a wet system?
Oh, dry.
It's gonna be dry? Okay.
Just the water, that's why the water stays in the basement in those containers, so that once the air comes out of the system, then the pump comes on when the pressure drops in. That way you don't have-
I'm sure they'll have calculations on how long it will take to,
It's very quick,
very quick, okay.
because the system stays up at pressure all the time,
Mhm.
up to that valve.
How many gallons is the tanks?
I don't know. Don't have a clue where to get that far yet.
Yep. He's gonna have to have a fire suppression engineer design.
Yeah, absolutely, it's all gonna be engineered.
That's part of the building.
Yeah. And that'll be all in FPA.
Okay.
And we'll make sure the fire department's involved in that with John also. So if they understand the system, so they understand what's gonna happen, so if they're plugging into it or whatever, they know what's gonna go on.
Yeah, especially with John, because he's gonna make sure it meets the codes.
Okay, 2 well sites located near the building. That was my mistake, just looking at that, must have been late or something. I just saw 2 locations near the back. It was on the drawing, that's why I said that, but you're just gonna have 1 in the rear.
Okay, we're gonna have other wells for the geothermal that is just a closed system, that not to withdraw water from the ground. Because they withdraw, it goes back into the well head system, so that's
Where's
different.
where's the geothermal system going? You don't know
We
yet?
don't know.
You have a geothermal engineer. that
Engineer,
designs
he
it.
designs that. And
You
it's
don't
all-
need, you don't need any level of permitting for that.
No, because it's not a pulling water out of the ground and keeping it out, I guess. It's gonna be a combination of a closed horizontal system and wells.
Any questions or concerns on the geothermal?
No, I know some people's got that put into their properties now. They say it works great.
Works great.
Even on fuel bills. It's a little more expensive. than
Okay.
diesel.
35. This just came up, I threw it in there.
Yeah, I answered it.
Okay. There is a proposal for a Dunkin' Donuts for those who
Which is
don't
gonna be
know.
interesting, because they have an ordinance that says that they can't have drive-throughs. So
Right.
I'd like to know how they're gonna have Dunkin' Donuts there.
I think they lifted some of that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, in certain areas,
Is this Wakefield?
yeah.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
Wakefield on kitty corner from Irving on
Right on the other side of the
125 and 16, where the White House is.
Yep.
Is that was sold?
That's where it is. Still pending.
Still pending. Okay.
That's what.
There is a proposal for that. I'm not saying it's a done deal, but that question was thrown out, and so I think more people are gonna be going down there than coming up, if that comes to fruition. Okay, construction phasing review and approval by the plan.
If you want us to put together a construction plan and a phasing plan, we'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
We would submit it to you and prior to the building permit, and that way you can review it or whatever you wanna do with it. It's
Okay.
Well,
Unfortunately,
you're
it's
gonna
one
have
of
to
those-
put something like that for John anyways.
No, we would want that also.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Any other questions? I had a couple additional questions. Okay. This one is answered. You had mentioned at the regional planning, by the way, the minutes will be out, I don't know exactly when they'll be out, but,
very exciting,
huh?
very exciting.
Very exciting minutes. What was I going with? Okay. Hangars, you mentioned hangars. Hangars, we're not putting additional
No,
hangars
that's
in
my hand.
your hangar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
Well, you were talking about hangars and my ears
Here's the
perked.
regional thing, and that both
That,
perked up his.
perked
Well,
up.
I put my hangar and then if other people put
Yeah, yeah.
hangars on their
That's-
property.
I thought you were gonna put another hangar in there, and then we're gonna have an airport, and then we're gonna have, yeah, okay. Yeah, just your
We
hangar.
have an airport, remember?
No, you have a landing, you have a private air, you have a
Yeah.
private airstrip. I correct people all the time.
See, not in-
Okay,
If we get to that status, we're all not gonna be worrying about that problem.
okay. Are there, I'm asking the board this, so to find out, are there any restrictions due to the height of the building on the airstrip, proximity to the airstrip?
No, because it's not that classification. If it was a public funded, there is restrictions, but we're not, we're private restricted.
What are the restrictions of it? Is it the proximity of the building?
No, it's the approaches, not in the center of an airport like that, it's off the ends of the airport. It can only be like 1 foot every 100 feet that you can have them obstructions out the end. Depending on how if you have those GPS guided landing systems and all that, that's when you get into even bigger than Rochester, that's Manchester sized airports.
Anybody have any concerns about that?
Of height of
Well,
buildings
the building and the
adjacent.
proximity to the landing strip.
Well, I think the zoning board should have took that into consideration when they gave him the application.
Well, I think that's part of our duty also, I think.
I don't think so.
And-
We can ask for him to go to the zoning board. Once he gets his approval through the zoning board, we can't back that off again.
We're not talking about his buildings, we're talking about other people building in the proximity of the
No.
landing strip.
No,
No,
no, I am talking about the resort.
resort, which is going to be what, 30, 48,
48 feet high.
48 feet high?
But it's even, if you go out adjacent, I don't know what the slopes are adjacent to runways, but you think about it, they have the control tower in the middle, usually the runway's right adjacent to them, and they're 300 feet tall.
I'm throwing the question out to the board if that's a,
He's
I think it's no-
the one gonna be landing the plane over
I
there.
don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Logan lately, but
He knows.
Radisson
Well, that's
is
Logan.
right
This
on the end of the runway, and they bring big planes in there.
This is Middleton.
I know, but we have small planes. If somebody crashes, it'll just go in one room, it's not gonna go in the whole.
I don't want it to crash at all. That's not a good thing to say. I don't want it to crash.
Chuck, how come I couldn't find any spas in
And where, in the building?
there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, there's a big day spa, and all, you wanna get your nails done?
No, you talking about spas or hot tubs?
Spas and hot tubs.
They're all, I mean, I haven't given John the full set of plans, because we're not at that point yet, but.
Okay. That one was answered. Well designed, that one was answered. Construction, that was answered. That was answered. That one was answered. That was answered. We have an engineering report.
Yeah, the plan that I got doesn't show any of that.
Okay. Throw this out to the board. This was mentioned at our meeting last week about the possibility of the traffic flow down Ridge Road and so forth and so on. Would it be wise or for us to hold another hearing for the residents of Ridge Road, knowing that what the traffic flows are for their input or concerns? Or,
We already held a hearing for that?
well, I'm not saying necessarily hold a hearing, but we could ask those abutters if they have any comments due to the traffic that might be down there, although the meetings have been.
The closest one is right here,
The
she's here.
closest, she's the closest to it.
Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm
Well,
talking about
we are talking about
She,
him.
you
Well,
are talking about
I
her.
don't mean it that way, I don't mean it that way, I don't take it that way, but I mean, there's other people on the road, I'm just throwing that out, it's not necessary.
So you're saying what we should do, or
I'm not
suggest,
saying we should or shouldn't.
what you're saying is that we might wanna think about or consider is notifying an extended area of people on Ridge Road
Yeah.
about an upcoming hearing?
Can I just
Absolutely.
Yeah,
stick
Marcia
this in?
Stevens.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
That's okay.
but from this corner to where we're talking, how many are there, 3
Yeah,
or
but
4 houses?
How many people are gonna go that way when they're coming off Route 16?
No, what I'm saying
Yeah.
is there's 3 or 4 houses.
Yeah.
If you think they're all gonna come in the other way, I can see it, but coming
Well,
in this way, and you were talking about, your 4 corners up here, and
Well,
you're expecting more traffic to come this way.
that's the
then-
hope, is that they will come that way, but if they're coming off the highway and they see the little, and then there's Mooney's Corner to consider.
Well,
There's 2 corners up
Yeah,
there.
well, that's
Well,
They're
what I-
right.
both
Yeah.
just as sharp.
They
what
are.
I would do too is put a sign, because I guess the town owns that little intersection of the thing, try and put a sign there that says Middleton Resort straight ahead, right at
Right.
that intersection where the
Right.
triangle is on
It's the
Ridge Road.
easiest.
Just put a sign there that says Middleton Resort straight ahead, so if they see the GPS telling them to go that way, they'll keep going straight. That's what we talked about with the signage
Right.
and instruction.
I know we base a lot of our world on technology, but I did run the GPS in 2 locations from 16 and Farmington, and it did not send you down Ridge Road. It's programmed to send you down Ridge routes, so. The people that would use Ridge Road would really have to know that it's there, and that's why our traffic impact assumes only 10% of the flow coming from 16 would even use that section of the road.
Okay.
This would be readdressed anyhow 2 years after that point in
My theory is we've already, the abutter already sent out notices to the abutters. If they were that concerned about it, they would have been here 2 or 3 times before. So,
All right, any comments from the audience, any questions? Janet Kaler, yes.
Water quality test, how many times a year are those being run?
I don't know.
it says,
I thought I heard somebody say yearly.
Pre-construction, and then I think it's, the first year it's 3 times during construction, so we'll get a baseline, and then after that, it'll be a minimum of twice a year, I'm pretty sure, right?
That's part of the permit process and part of the permit,
But we do include it in the
and it's also on your,
I just thought I heard somebody say yearly, and I'm saying, I don't think so, it should be done more than that.
couple.
Twice a year, it sounds like.
Yeah, we'll do it 4 times during the construction time, so
Right.
we get a good baseline. You only do it once pre-construction, before we start, and then we'll do it 4 times during construction to get a good baseline.
That's
Any
my
other-
only question.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Garrett, Ken Garrett.
I don't know the candor of the meetings and everything, it sounds like a lot has gone on, and I haven't been to any of these. And I don't know if people are joking or not, but I'm getting some inference that somehow the town may be responsible for maintaining fire pumps and testing. I hope that's not the case. This is an owner obligation to provide all the testing. Whether or not, the volunteer fire department is introduced in some manner as above and beyond is an issue to be determined between the two organizations. The water quality, it's really not for the building inspector to enforce. In fact, it's a self-compliance requirement for the owner to take care of that property. And they're reporting for documentation purposes, but again, it's not the town's obligation to enforce that. Again, that is a self-compliance and self-enforcement. And I just want to make sure that, and I think there's a joke between Kate about being a compliance checker or something like that, but again, that's not the Conservation Commission's role.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that, and I say this as a budget committee member, that if there is any inference of any requirement of the town to provide maintenance and services for the operation of this facility, it needs to be declared up front.
Right, and we're not, if the fire department wants to go out there, but that's his responsibility.
Okay.
The water quality, yes, we want to see that as a town, because if there's something going wrong with his land down there, that gives us a heads up, along with her heads up, to go ahead and start reporting this stuff to the Wetlands Bureau and stuff like that, where he's not out there just willy-nilly doing these tests and sticking them in a booklet and saying, hey, they don't care, so I don't care. We want to see those water tests.
So that's a reporting requirement.
No.
Right, it's
Yeah.
a reporting requirement to us, so we can go ahead and tell where we're up and up on everything.
Well, we could say to the fact that all testing of water quality, runoff, and all that kind of stuff, as it's done, be reported to the town.
That's what it says.
I think that's what it says.
And also, it says if there is a change, then it has to be with that report, a remediation plan already in place.
Has to be discussed
Right.
with the planning board.
All those reports will go to the health officer. That goes to my other hat.
Yep.
All right.
A good question. Ken Gary's got a lot of.
Oh, yes, sir.
On the geothermal,
Yes,
is that-
I'm not from, I
is
don't
that shown
know what
on
the impact would
is
be.
that shown on the site plan?
It is not yet.
So the
Right.
geothermal well field is not shown.
No, you do you know where that, you have no idea where that's going to
No, because we haven't worked with the geothermal engineer.
Okay. That would be, I would think, an important place where that goes. Is in your opinion?
In
is that-
general, yes, and then you need to actually, our firm has been involved with a couple of geothermal projects.
Yeah,
It's not just, a simple, drilling wells down to determine where the well field's gonna go, obviously, for one case. Believe it or not, there are impacts as far as, doing the study and making sure it's properly located so it will function. Again, that's their engineer that's gonna determine that. But I would also make recommendation, you may wanna double check with the state regarding drilling of these systems, even though it's a closed loop. The state of Maine and the state of New Hampshire typically require a level of oversight and permitting. We had this up at the Plymouth Arena, at Plymouth State College, and likewise at Colby College up in Maine. So it's not just a simple, gee, I'm gonna drill some wells in the ground
I don't think, okay,
and do it, So there's a permitting process that at least DES needs to be notified. Most systems do have propylene glycol in it. Again, it's non-toxic, but there's a process involved. So I wanna make sure the planning board understands that this is not just something, and it's something they not compelled to do. I would presume it's a means to heat the facility for energy. I'm sure there's alternative means that they could use. So it's not a showstopper, but if it's intended to go in, it should be declared in the documents.
yeah, I would request as part of when you get, part of the conditional approval would be that's
that should be brought again. Again, that's his fault, that's his court, not in our court.
I don't know if it's,
I mean,
Let me clarify, we're not geothermal engineers.
no, I know
We have no
you've gone up,
expertise in that.
you're.
Chuck has expressed that he would like to utilize that technology on site. When he hires a geothermal engineer and they tell him that he can't do it on the site for whatever permitting reasons, he can't do it. If he can, he can.
That's why we have all those gas tanks showing through the propane, so that we can heat with that if we need to. But there is, and I've done quite a few geothermals, you have standing column, I'm not gonna educate everybody on it, but it is, if you're doing closed loop, that's just pipes horizontal. We don't know what we're gonna use yet, if we even can use it, so when we do, it will be.
Okay, I think Mr. Gary's comments are well taken though, in terms of making sure that, if a geothermal is used, obviously the appropriate permits will be secured for that, correct? Okay, so a geothermal,
MAL, geothermal.
Geothermal,
Thermal, not thermal.
thermal,
well,
THERMAL.
that's what, am I saying it wrong?
Indeed.
What did I say?
Oh, thermal. It's
Well,
thermal.
The lake people.
I'm from New York, so
The lake
we
people
say
kind
our.
of say it that way.
I'm sorry.
I'm from New Hampshire now, but I grew up in New York, so make sure that thermal, permits
Because it's a t-shirt, thermal, right?
are
You make
secured
plastic bags, there's a big difference in.
for New Hampshire state requirements. Is that good enough? Yeah, what I said, make sure, I don't say make sure, I just said any geothermal system is developed, proper permits will be secured and followed per New York State and New Hampshire state regulations. Sorry. Sorry.
Keep going, John.
It's been a long day, sorry. Okay. Anything else for anybody? Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
keep going?
Yes, you can, go right ahead.
Just a side note before I get to the next item, is fire department connections typically, unless you want to have dual feed fire department connection, there's a certain degree of requirements that typically makes it a little bit prohibitive to do in a facility. I'm not sure how big this is, but generally there's usually only one fire department connection, so it's a one go-to location for the fire department.
Is that
It's
hard?
an NFPA, it's a building issue, so we
Okay.
don't need to get into that right now, just as a side note. The item that I kind of heard from Kate was that she made comment about a 100-year flood line has not been delineated. And I also get the sense that the alteration of terrain permit has not been done. Is that correct? And so that kind of brings into question if that's been done, has not been done and secure, and there may need to be adjustments to it, then have drainage calculations been done at a sheet or a culvert, and what kind of impacts could the alteration of terrain permit? So I'm not sure I understand, and I know I'm coming into this late, but, and then there was mention of a DES violation. It sounds like there's some stuff here that hasn't been
That is
fully
correct,
vetted.
that is correct. The alteration of terrain on the original project, the wetlands permit, was not secured, okay? Was not secured, so they're in the process of working through that. It's almost like a mitigation plan in terms of getting the permit, okay? And the calculations for the floodplain will be in, and you jump in here, I'm paraphrasing here, the application for the new project on the alteration of terrain, which is part of the conditional approval that it be secured, will include the floodplain as part, I believe that's part of the requirement, I believe, okay? So that will either alter their plan or whatever, whatever that comes out to be. The process, the process here in terms of the original permit not being secured is, as Mr. Terrio said here earlier, and I'm not defending him, just what I feel it is that they are working, his representative is working with DES to secure that mitigation plan, to put it in place and complete it, okay? If DES or they can't come to some agreement, and, you know, and I think we put a time limit on that. If we didn't, we should. In terms of that plan, then there might be a combination of the mitigation and the new alteration of terrain together. Is that correct, Chris? Is that, and that's my understanding that that can be accomplished also. So, if we go back to, actually question one, and that really addresses the original violation, if you will. And it's being suggested that the condition, the approval be based, requires all outstanding permits be received prior to issuance of the building permit. This includes all outstanding permits related to the runway, which is where the violation has occurred. So, that's the way I understand that to work. So, you're concerned about the floodplain, I guess that will come up, actually should come up in the documents that they do with the mitigation plan.
And I don't know if you heard Chris in the beginning, it comes across the corner of the property, not even where we're developing, out by the river, which we don't feel is accurate. So he's actually taken way more extra steps and gonna redo the floodplain and show where it really should be. We've done the requirement of where what is it called, the FEMA?
The FEMA flood zone. Yeah.
Flood zone, we've satisfied the requirement, but we know that it's probably in a little further on that river than what they're showing. And he also in his, if you notice, our design for the course in that area is to actually mitigate any flooding that would happen, to get the water into the wetlands and through the property. And we're building way outside of the floodplain, any of the structures. So all three of those things have been addressed. I don't know if you had heard him or up to speed what we were saying on that earlier.
Your cease and desist order.
Yep.
That can't be lifted until you secure that permit. He was issued a cease and desist order on the property.
Except for mitigation and
Except for
reloaming and
Right, mitigation, right.
stabilize.
So that permit has to be settled.
Yep.
Before he can dig a shovel for anything. That's what.
There was mention about grease traps, and I want to make sure I understand. It sounds to me as more to do with building, but when I hear, so we're talking grease interceptors that will outflow to a septic system, not a holding tank to hold grease, but.
Right. That's why I clarified.
It's an interceptor that's going to accumulate grease, then on a regular periodic basis, you can have your contractor when that's came out. The other piece is there a project narrative available that says what this project is? I see a picture up here, I hear 57-room hotel.
There is
So
a
is it
narrative,
very
we have a
specific?
copy, I'll get you a copy of the narrative. It is a very basic narrative, but it does explain the scope of the project. That's one of the requirements of our site, is a narrative of the project and what it entails. It is not a booklet. It is a couple paragraphs long as to what it entails.
Does it include the use, meaning, I think you mentioned a hotel, a commercial, there's generally IBC has different grades and levels and classifications of buildings that give a generality of what we're looking at.
It is very, very general.
And the only reason I ask is
Yeah.
because, Mr. Terrio may be here today, and because we are all mortal, and there could be somebody else here 3 years from now wanting to do not a hotel and 57 rooms, and maybe some other type of a classification.
But it's listed on our plan, what the uses are also,
Good.
in
Okay,
parking requirements, so nobody could come in and do anything different from or beyond what those uses are listed.
So I just make sure that the site plan is oriented to specific.
Yeah.
Once this is registered with the
Okay.
registry of deeds, that,
Well, this doesn't get registered with the registry of deeds, we gotta keep it on file here, and in the,
It doesn't get registered until you have the final approval.
no, it never gets registered, site plans,
Well,
typically get
No, but
registered.
Was there a stormwater protection permit pulled for this project? That's already been done along with that also terrain?
I don't know.
What?
The
What was
question
that
again?
question again?
Has there been a stormwater protection permit filed with the EPA? The state of New Hampshire is not authorized to issue those permits. contrary.
Has that been applied for, do you know?
The what?
A stormwater protection permit. It's like a
Permit.
3-page permit that you make on
Yeah,
the
that's part of,
ZBA.
that's the SWIP permit, that's part of the
Stormwater
AOT.
permit, Chris?
Nifty's Phase 2 SWPDP.
Yep, yep.
It's located on the plan,
Okay.
it's to be submitted for construction.
Yeah, was that done for the other project as well, the runway or whatever it was?
That was originally, yeah.
I don't know about the other project.
I didn't,
That was an easy answer. And then, I guess lastly, there seemed to be a little bit confusion with what documents were what. So if the planning board were to approve, is there clarity for all the members of what you are actually approving? And do you have all those documents bound together in front of you as a benchmark?
I would recommend that we set, as part of this approval, time frame to have a list of all these documents put forth as a condition, so that if there is a document missing, that before we make a final approval, that they are there. They are in various places. We do have them all. They're up.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah,
And
they're up there. Are they all in the packet for everybody? And they're all, no.
I guess my point was, there should be typically there's a town pack that you benchmark. Again,
Yes.
we're all mortal here, so
Yeah,
it's a
and-
benchmark for.
Go forward,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's memorializing where you are. And what's
Because this
been
does not
occurred.
get recorded.
Everybody's get
No,
clarity.
it does not
Yes.
get recorded. It's recorded.
I understood,
Okay.
but it's in the interest of both the owner
Absolutely.
and the planning
public.
board.
Yes, and the
It's a
public.
mutual interest
Right.
to ensure that everybody's clarity of what the approval was in the conditions set forth.
That should be, we should have that done.
you're talking about just every document that we've submitted bound together. and
Yeah,
submitted to?
I went through most of those, and you have a list of documents that you've done, I have those lists, and these conditions need to be written down in terms of what we're doing here. The documents that provided, what we're expecting on the final approval, so that should be part of the condition, is I don't know, final document list, or what do you call it, packet?
Well, we call them, in our office, it's a final project binder.
But you have everything in the BMP with the drainage and all that, you just need the plan set to be finalized. I mean,
Well,
this-
we also need
this has-
to address all these,
Those
make
have to be
sure
added.
that all that we have received, because I have checked, all the documents, the narrative, physical impact, we've got those.
If I could make a suggestion,
Yes, sir.
the alteration of terrain, which is forthcoming.
Yeah.
You mentioned a binder, there's already a file divider for the altered terrain.
Yeah.
All this stuff is later, so, it would just simply be typically a blank sheet, and there would be your answer, and so it could be all, just get nice and formalized, so everybody is clarity. And, in my opinion, I don't think every board member needs to have it, but it should be like
Just
a working
available,
project.
because most of the
working
documents
document.
that have created here have been, are up there in the file, so. Okay, any other questions, comments? Yes, sir, your name?
Scott Drummy, I'm resident in New Durham.
Okay.
I'm also on the planning board in New Durham, and in New Durham, with any kind of construction site, anything approaching this size, we always require a bonding from the developer. So in case they start construction and halfway through the project, the developer crashes his airplane and dies, and there's no plan to complete it.
Can you guys pull his pilot's license?
I'm just in this example, but that's what happens if the funding for the project fails halfway through it, and there's 50 acres of ground that's been torn open and left that way. Or I'm exaggerating, but that's
There are easements on the property, if anything goes belly up, that property goes back into the same condition it was when it was first originally, the trees, everything.
But who pays for that to happen
It
unless
just-
there's a bonding to make it happen? He
it
can
just-
declare bankruptcy and say, I don't have any money.
Yeah, and it goes back into the original, whatever grows out there. When the guy took the trees out of there originally, we didn't require him a bond to take so many trees out and go ahead and use that to sell to the mills. That's just gonna naturally regrow, that's it. So,
That's,
we are definitely gonna set forth a bond for the roads.
Chris, you're
well,
gonna
that
say.
was my,
Yeah, it was. Now I want to say multiple things. The roads are private, so they're not public roads, so they don't necessarily need to be bonded.
No, but for
Ah.
our roads,
Absolutely.
we are gonna have to put
Yeah,
forth a
construction,
bond for that.
construction.
That's a selectman that do
The
that.
maximum square footage that can be opened under any alteration of terrain is between 2 and 5 acres. So there isn't going to be 50 acres
well,
open.
fine, but still.
And I don't want to start spending your money, but there are reclamation bonds. When people hear bonds, they think, you know, if the project site's going to cost you $100 million, you need to post a $100 million bond. That's not going to happen here. But there are reclamation bonds, so that if he opens an acre, he has a bond available for 1 acre of reclamation. And there are typical numbers used for those efforts.
Your point's well taken. Question I have, and this is for the board too. Let's say the project, and I think this is where you were alluding to, is the project starts and something happens.
Like happened in Nottingham, you got a big building sitting there with
Correct.
nothing going on with it.
That's correct.
It's not
The only
even-
reason that stopped was because,
But
It
it's,
doesn't matter why it's done.
but it will continue on more than likely, but this is a little bit different of a scale of the project than that.
yes,
Sure.
it's irrelevant in terms of what happened in Nottingham. This is,
But there is already gonna be things in place. I mean, getting into my personal business, and how I run the business, there's a bond, an insurance policy put on me if I die, that the project will continue on and be finished. I mean, there's lots of, an
if
investor's not gonna put, you know, $20 million out and have.
if
nothing
that's the
finished.
case, then I'd like to see a copy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's all I'm saying, the planning board should have,
Right.
Yeah,
Proof
if
that-
that is the
Oh, yeah.
case,
the mess is gonna get cleaned up if it
if
falls
that is
through.
the case, that would be part, that
That's all.
that will,
Assurances.
yes, okay. Anybody have any comments on that? So that would be part of,
Assurances for completion.
insurance for completion.
Insurance policies have beneficiaries too, so if a beneficiary
Janet
comes along and says, I don't want that money to go to that project, you got a problem.
Mhm. Like I said, in New Durham, we require a bond.
I said
Put
that
out.
to you before too.
Well,
You do with it what you want, but I'm just commenting what New Durham requires.
And other than the easement on your landing strip, there's no other easements on this new site review?
no.
We have nothing. It's just the easement that the landing strip does not continue, that
It goes
it's to go
natural.
back to a natural grass vegetative state.
Nothing else, you have to have the money there for reclamation, and there's nothing.
Well, what we can do here is,
That's a slippery slope, because you can't actually have the town going and reclaim a private piece of property. They've had that happen, and Rick can attest to that on private sites with gravel pits and stuff, so. But the assurances will be to show that it has to be finished, and that'll be written right into the rider and the insurance policy, that it's for completion of the project. So it's not gonna be just the guy can walk away with money and be done with it, it's gotta be finished.
But
I mean,
Chuck,
that's what I'll give to you guys.
Even a gravel pit has a bond.
Sure.
Absolutely.
okay, that would be prior to building. Any other comments on that particular situation? Nobody's saying that.
You're doing good, John.
No, okay. All right, any other comments? Mr. Savage?
Jack Savage, Silver Street. Listening to all this, I don't worry too much about how many gallons are in the pond or stuff like that. But there's some fairly big picture issues that at this point we're kind of relying on promises, and I think at this point, it sounds premature to approve something tonight that, in particular, understanding exactly what improvements might need to be made to Ridge Road and what it's going to cost and how that's going to be guaranteed is really critical. Personally, I'm disappointed that the entrance isn't off of Kings Highway. I think I understand why it's not there, but I don't think it's in the town's best interest. But that's just my personal take on it. We don't have, as near as I can tell, any proof of full site control. And so you're approving a site plan on something that we don't have evidence in front of us that the proposed developer even has access to all of the land they propose to develop. And I think once you get that, you need to take a close look at the deeds of the other parcels and make sure that the use that's being proposed is allowable. I don't know of any reason that it's not, but I'm not sure that that has been done. And I would echo the gentleman from New Durham's concern that whatever legally can be done for potential reclamation is considered, and the planning board would be wise to ask for the time to consult with its attorney to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Having been a writer about golf projects before, there's an old saw that every golf course has to go bankrupt 3 times before it finally finds its place in the market. And it's a tough business. And so we have to presume going forward that this may or may not work the first time through, and that we'll be dealing with someone different who doesn't care what promises the current owner made in a planning board meeting in 2014. And that's why we need our town attorney to make sure that we're as protected as we legally can be protected, based on the impacts that really had something to do with the cost of the town.
I agree with you in terms of the making sure that a couple things here. On the attorney looking at these requirements, I think that's important for us to do that, ensure that we're doing that. The other thing I think what Mr. Savage might be referring to is the adjoining property on holes 8 and 9. That we fully understand the nature of those properties in terms of any restrictions or wetlands or anything like that.
We do that.
We've provided that.
You've provided that for us.
And, I mean, like you said, the Myers were here, and Mr. Quinton was down.
Yeah, but,
And they also are gonna give us more information on their agreements.
well, yeah.
And I also, in the zoning, I get that approved for those areas, the waiver for the golf course to be built on those 2 properties. Already.
Well,
So we did get that restriction.
We want copies of those.
Well, you have the zoning
We have
approval.
the zoning approval, yeah.
Yep, yep.
But we want, the purchasing sale
Yep,
agreement.
yep, absolutely.
Any comments on what Mr. Savage said in terms of the assurance, the time frame? I believe part of this approval should be that our attorney does confer with that we are doing the right thing here in terms of approvals and requests with attorney review of the conditions. Okay? Anybody have a problem with that?
So you want,
What I'm going to do, or what I'm proposing to do, is that the conditions that we've talked about, however we decide, if we go forward, that we pass these through the attorney, and if she cites any issues or problems that, and from a legal standpoint, bring up, that we can get those corrected. That's where I'm going for that.
right, but why would the attorney have issues with you asking me and me agreeing to
Well, she might see something we don't see in terms of, do you have this, do you have that, don't have this.
I mean, I don't think that she will come up with things, other conditions that you guys don't understand or haven't brought up.
I don't know if she will or won't. I would,
Well, she stated in the stuff we were working on before that she can't give you new ideas on other things. She can review what you guys give her for ideas.
I would, that's up to the board. I would feel better if the attorney looked at the agreement.
Jack still has something.
Well, I guess one of my concerns is that there's a lot riding on conditions. And that a building permit wouldn't be issued until such conditions are met. And I don't think you have adequate leverage at that point. I think now is the time to make sure that you've got all of the things that you're concerned about addressed in a proper way. You know, I guess I would echo Mr. Gary's comments. It seems like kind of a disorganized list of things, and once you pass conditional, your record of decision is whatever you've got there in front of you, and I don't hear it being particularly well organized tonight. I presume that a site review is much like a subdivision review in that there's a 30-day appeal period, and so there's nothing that can be done between tonight and 30 days that, especially given the time of year it is, that can necessarily advance this project on the ground. And that everybody would be better off if you took the time to make sure you've got it right and done a month from now correctly, rather than do it badly and open yourself up for an appeal of what the planning board did. If the planning board's decision is appealed, then it's at the cost of the town to defend that appeal.
I don't think that I know, with respect, Jack, you haven't been here at all the meetings, but I don't think we've gone haphazard about this at all. We've done more than even any of the town regulations had to get to this point.
We've asked for a lot
It's
of
just based on me listening tonight to the questions and so forth, and it would be a challenge, quite frankly, to create a record of decision based on the conditions that have been talked about tonight.
But I think, Jack, that these were questions that were brought up, and he's checked a lot of them off that were already addressed, and we were just going back through all the concerns. Not that all these things are going to be conditions. These whole 38 things or whatever you guys written aren't all conditions, because a lot of them were addressed in the plan set. So I don't know if you're going to have a 10, 12, which isn't unheard of, 10 or 12 or whatever you're going to have, John, for a conditions list. It's not 38 conditions, because he checked a lot of them off saying that they are on the plan.
And what you don't see also too right now, Jack, is what's sitting in front of me, is his conditions that he wants put on his plans. Most of this stuff that we've talked about, myself, John, have gone through these things, we're flying through codes, and they are on the plan.
Right. So can I ask?
So we are going to have this stuff put on the plan.
Can I ask if the planning board has done a site walk of this property?
I've already site walked it once. I know
the
what's
board
out
has
there.
not, as a board, has not done a site visit. And that's, actually, that's one of the conditions of the site review, is that we do a site walk. Certainly we can't do that now.
But we did ask back when we first started this, if you wanted to, we asked at that first meeting, and it was, everybody on the board, for the most part, was offered to come out there. And I have no problem with everybody coming out there, but it could be 2 months before the snow's gone. We don't want to be waiting around 2 months and 30-day appeal process before we can start building permit and all that. I mean,
You can't do anything anyway. He's in violation. He's got to work through with DES before he can even rectify what he did wrong to begin with. So to hold off on the decision until you talk to the attorney isn't gonna make a difference to him. He can't do
well,
anything
absolutely,
anyway.
It makes a difference to when the funding can be procured, because without an approval, we can't move forward with anything at all. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we had everything that would satisfy everything, so that we could.
I'll although the funding is important to you, I understand that.
Important to you guys too, if it doesn't
It's
get built,
not,
this is all moot point.
it is not a thing that will push us
No,
to make decisions that we're not comfortable with.
no, but it's a
Okay.
reality of what we were at.
I understand that, but it's a reality also. It's a very large project.
Can I
Very,
say-
very large project.
Can I say a few things?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
We started this project a number of months ago. We've asked along the way what the board wants, what the board needs to work towards an approval, and we've been given guidance the entire way. We've been asked to go through the Stratford Regional Planning process. There were some hiccups there for faults that aren't ours. And every time we meet with this board, in the past, we have asked, what else do you need from us? Kate has asked us for some things, each member has asked us for some things, and we have delivered them to you. You've had the plan set reviewed by your professional review company, and I think for the magnitude of this project scope, that list was very benign. We took care of every item on the list, and we supplied the information back to Mr. Lucy with White Mountain. He came to the last planning board meeting and said that we had sufficiently taken care of everything on his list. We have then met with Stratford Regional Planning, who went through our traffic analysis and site plans with another fine-tooth comb and agreed with every assumption that we provided them and you as part of this project scope. In the last 48 hours, we received a list of concerns and potential conditions of approval, which we took the time to stop and respond to so that we could have a constructive meeting here this evening and have a constructive, well-thought-out list of conditions. There's always discussion that happens at these board meetings. There are always conditions that are added to plans. At this point, it's our opinion that we have spent a sufficient amount of time with this board to come to the well-thought-out plan that we have in front of you, and would ask that you consider that this evening.
In total, how many conditions do we have that's not answered?
There are none that aren't answered.
And they
But
appear,
there's information that's not provided.
No,
but they
there
appear on here.
there is information that will be needed at a certain date on this here. Conditional approval, issuance of a building permit, we put it, all these have conditions, as been mentioned, that it's pertinent to, securing an alteration of terrain permit. If one of those conditions doesn't work,
We don't have a project.
you don't have a project.
Exactly. A conditional approval isn't a
Yes.
final approval, it's the
I
condition that
understand.
you're
Yeah,
okay with the concept of what we're doing, show us all these other things, then that final set of plans is signed and put in there, now you can go build it. I mean, but without that approval, that first approval step, you can't move forward. You can't, Jack's thinking that this is the final end-all be-all, but it's not. This is okay, this is in concept what we were gonna do.
But I agree with what Mr. Savage has indicated that, and this is my concern, and Chris, you're right, I will say that you have responded to everything that we've asked in a timely manner, okay? And, you've responded to this list. I do agree, though, or I will comment, that questions continue to come up.
But when are the questions going to stop?
Well,
When is the day that we say,
Roger?
we've got enough?
Well, you want to make a motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion. I'm making a motion right now that we accept the application with the stipulations that they have in place by the construction of Middleton Planning Board approval, which was provided to us by Chuck Terrio and his engineer, to make sure that all these are in fact done and reviewed before anything else can go on with the project.
I would like to amend that to include one of the conditions is that our attorney review these conditions set forth, and if there's any input or additional requirements set forth by the attorney, that we incorporate those into the plan.
Is that okay with you guys?
Well, that's
That's a condition.
Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna do any of this, it could be appealed, I mean, we wanna make sure that.
Well, this isn't our expertise.
No,
We're not lawyers.
Mr. Savage, yes.
Well, I don't know whether you're discussing among yourselves or allowing public
We
comment.
haven't had a second, we shouldn't be discussing.
But,
Yes.
but,
Let's
Is
get
there a
it
second to the, first of all, the
What's the
amendments?
motion?
The motion is to accept the application, okay,
And conditionally
with the
approve it.
conditions set forth, presented to us by Mr. Terrio, which covers everything that we've asked for already. And that our attorney takes a look at it, right? Is that what you said?
That's what I'm saying.
Takes a look at it.
Is that for a conditional approval?
Pardon me?
Conditional approval?
No, we're approving it.
Conditional.
Conditional.
Those are the conditions.
Those are the conditions.
No, no, you need to clarify it, conditional approval.
No.
This is an approval of the plan with with conditions,
No, no,
and that's
no,
the
no,
way the attorney
no, no,
told us
no,
to
no.
do it.
Conditional.
I talked to the attorney 2 days ago, you can shake your head no as much as you want, I did.
It's not how we do it in New Durham, I'll tell you
It's
that.
not how we did it in Farmington either when I was chairman.
All projects have a conditional approval.
That's right.
Final approval is when when the alteration
All
of terrain
conditions are
permits
met.
are.
We've
And et
we've
cetera, et
already
cetera.
done a conditional approval.
No, we haven't.
We have?
No, we
I
have
thought
not.
we did. I thought we
He said
approved this
an approval would
application.
be-
We
Didn't we?
approved the application, not
The site.
the
Okay.
site plan. It's a conditional approval. So would you like to amend your motion?
Yeah, make it a conditional approval.
Final approval comes when all the conditions are
All
met.
the conditions are met.
So I have clarity, can you read that back, so I know what I'm voting on?
Yeah.
Or seconding or whatever?
Good lord.
Questions?
Roger made a motion to conditionally accept the site plan with the conditions
Set forth.
set forth, and with also an additional condition being review by the town's attorney.
Is there a second?
I don't know if it's accept the application, we conditionally approve it, because we've already accepted
A
the
second.
application.
Accept the site plan,
Site plan.
accept, well, I wanna make it read right. The site- Let me read it again.
Yeah.
It's already been seconded.
I second.
Oh, you did second it, I didn't hear that. Thank you.
Discussion, Mr. Savage.
well, I don't know what your procedure is. But if you give me the floor, then fine. I want to be clear, my concerns here, quite frankly, are more with the planning board than the applicant at this stage. It sounds like the applicant has been attempting to provide you with some of the things that you've asked for. But I'm concerned that the planning board is not in position to adequately protect the town for the what-ifs. And that it's unfair, in fact, to the applicant if you, to say, and we want to have our lawyer take a look at it and see if anything else comes up. Well, that's not right. You need to know exactly what the conditions are that will lead to approval. You can't add more later. You have to know exactly what they are. And I would urge the planning board to ask the applicant to extend a sufficient amount of time in order to get your paperwork in order and to make sure, in particular, that you protect the town from what happens if things don't go as everyone hopes they will. That's the goal here. If the financing is so weak that it can't stand another 30 days when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, then I think we've got bigger problems.
I think your other amendment to add that was to check that list of conditions to make sure that they're legal, correct?
Right.
I don't think you're talking about other conditions, you haven't mentioned any other conditions. Is that what the amendment was?
Well, I'm trying to make sure that we have done everything in terms, and those conditions are set up, that they will occur, okay? And in terms of sufficient information, we can certainly always find other things to look at here, I'm sure. But, you know, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Mr. Gary?
I'd just like to echo again what I said earlier. And I kind of hear what Jack's saying, and I think it kind of ties in what I'm saying. Again, administratively, and I'm sorry to pick on the board, but objectively, I'm looking back at this right now. It's a mess. Just the paperwork, the way of the layout. I think when you walk in and you get the conditional approval that the applicant's seeking, that having everything formalized and put in place and everybody knows what they're actually approving and it gets benchmarked, everybody's gonna say, yes, I do, and they're gonna smile, the applicant's gonna walk out of here happy. One of the pieces that I'm still a little confused on, and there was some comment made, was about bonding. And then there's talk about insurance and beneficiary. And mentioned that maybe the town's not listed. I'm just gonna ask the board, are you, each one of you, all clear on what you have for an expectation in the event of, you know, financing drops out or midstream of the project? What exactly, did you consider a condition on that? And what is your understanding of what you're voting on in regards to bonding and protection of the town?
No. I don't think we're voting on a bond.
No, I know you're not voting on a bond. What your understanding is for...
Our understanding is that, on the conditional approval, that Mr. Terrio will provide a documentation. And I'm not sure that this is really gonna satisfy our need here, honestly. If he dies, the project will be taken care of. But what if he goes away? So, you know, the insurance policy, when you think about it, is, I don't know what that's not a bond.
So I guess what my point is that there's still some items of clarity. And the other piece I want to address is that hearing all the bits and pieces of what everybody's talked about and the answers to the questions, this certainly has not been a haphazard approach by the applicant. From what I'm hearing and some of the responses, in fact, the information has been provided. But again, I come to the point of aggregating it and making sure there's clarity. But hearing, you spoke up, John, and I don't mean to put everybody on the spot, but again, what is the understanding? We had someone mention the experience on the planning board as far as bonding. What exactly is the conditional approval? Is that in the applicant's list, bonding, or is it not?
It is
And
not.
if it's not, does the planning board intend by the conditional approval to have specific bonding language?
I think it might be wise thing to do. I don't know.
I mean, as far as being haphazard, you have this plan set, which we amended with 2 pages today,
That's not,
and then this, and then he's gonna provide a book, like you said, for
No,
the
you
signing of the
You
conditions.
misunderstood me. I said it was not haphazard.
Okay,
I
right.
didn't say it was haphazard. I said
Well,
it
that's
was
how
not.
you started out.
No,
And
you're
then-
You're doing a good job.
My concern is on far as the planning board.
But I don't think they're not
Administrative.
going about it haphazard either.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
I've sat in on, not all of the meetings, but a few.
Close to it.
Thank you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but have you not already you've hired White Mountain Survey to act as your representative to look over all of the plans that were submitted and everything about this project, correct? You've had the attorney check over things, and you went before Stratford Regional Planning for their advice.
Right.
And did you not, at the last meeting, promise that the only reason you were putting it off was because you were waiting for the report from Stratford Regional Planning? And if
No.
he waited,
No.
if he was patient until you got that report or that meeting, that you would give him a final answer tonight?
No.
Didn't you? At the last meeting?
Never talked about a final.
Not our last meeting, but the meeting before that, we wanted Stratford Regional, we asked him to
You
put
asked
off,
him if he
to
would
put off the
wait.
date,
Right,
so we could read their report.
Right, so you could read a report,
exactly.
but that's
and then
Yeah.
meet
not a
again,
guarantee of an answer.
and then meet again today.
Well, we have to give him
For
an
a
answer
final
tonight, one
answer.
way or another, or we have to
I'm
ask
sorry, but I know that's what you said, for a final if he would wait until tonight, for a final answer. And, whether it's an approval or a conditional approval, I think you owe the guy something at this point. This just keeps stretching out.
It's only been since September. It's hardly any time at all to review a project of this scope. And we gotta make sure the town's protected.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
Have
saying.
you not already,
No, we don't have
taken
any,
those
we don't have
steps?
any assurance tonight that if he goes belly up, that the town is protected.
You don't have any insurance that it's
I-
gonna
I
start
haven't
right
seen
now
any.
before we even brought the plan into you, so it's.
No, but nothing's happened.
But if something happens, we can only start 1 acre at a time out there, 2 acres, whatever the thing is. I don't have the funds to go out and build this thing myself. I'm not gonna move forward to start building it unless all the funds are in place, and I'm guaranteed of that before they're there.
Again, I repeat, I understand your funding issue, but I think we're here to protect the town in terms of what ifs, and I agree with Mr. Savage in terms of.
But if is a
the what
doggone
ifs.
big word, and we can if this thing to death.
and isn't the approval you're talking about a conditional approval? That's not a final approval.
Well, the conditions that are set forth are final,
Right,
in
right.
a sense,
And if those
because it
conditions are
doesn't
met,
become a final approval until
Until
all
those
those
conditions are met.
conditions are met.
correct, right,
That's the key.
right.
So if one falls through, a permit isn't allowed, a permit isn't secured in sufficient time,
Exactly.
so,
And who's overseeing that?
what's that?
Who's overseeing that for the
That
town?
gentleman there, and us.
Will they?
You guys have to sign it first, so when everything's satisfied, we get back together.
I don't see anything until you guys approve it, but
Right.
when you set a conditional approval, can other conditions be brought into it
No.
after?
No,
They cannot.
They cannot.
So if you don't have all your conditions listed down there and you conditionally approve it, those are the only ones you can address.
That's
You
correct.
can't go
But the
back
thing
later and say we want a
But the
bond.
thing about it, people have been here for some meetings, not here for some meetings, and we've conditioned, and we've kept the applicant going back and bringing us stuff back. Well, what about this thing? And then they go back and get it again. Oh, what about this thing? And they go back and give it again. We write a letter to them, send them, what about 32 items, which we found out the majority of them were on the plans
And
already.
those items were there for clarification to make
Right.
sure, to ensure,
It
not that
sounds
we
like,
didn't
it
realize.
sounds like your
it.
bond is the only thing you're really concerned with.
Right.
So why don't you
So all we
address
gotta
that
do is
now
address the
and
bond
get your
with-
dealings done?
with these conditions.
No, the bond issue, you're talking about if he cannot finish the project.
Right.
Right,
Is there
so-
something that you can agree on and put it in as one of the conditions?
So, if wherever the site stops, I mean, if the building's halfway up, the financer's not gonna not finish the
So,
project.
here's the thing, we have 2 properties that you don't own yet, and you're saying that's gonna be not a problem. So what happens if it is a problem? Who's gonna review that to
All
make
we do
sure
is
it isn't a
remove that,
problem?
we've already, on the first plan we brought into you, which it's actually, might even be that one, no.
But, I mean, there's
But
been no
the
deed.
course, all that happens at that point is those two holes move over onto the property, and we don't do any residential on that side.
Yeah.
Or there's less residential. It's not a make-all, break-all situation. The property was presented to me to purchase,
But
so I
we-
said, yeah, we'll work with that property.
That's not the question. The question is, we
Okay.
need to assure before we go into, and then who will ensure that those are correct? And
It's
that
gotta
those
be
deeds
signed
are
by
correct.
you guys. It has to be signed off before we can start any construction. We have to have all those permits in place. Everything's gotta be done.
And that's what the conditions are, and that's what it says here.
I
That
think John's right.
all these,
I think John's right about the bond.
Right, and that's what I was starting to address. If you let me address that, so you can put up a performance bond, you know, as many sureties. So a performance bond, that's what I was getting at with the building. Once the building started, nobody will leave that and stay in perpetuity the way it is. It would be foolish for somebody to put some money in. Or if it goes away, the town's not gonna finish a building that they're not gonna occupy. What would they do, tear it down? I mean, whatever the situation is, sell the steel, whatever it is. But to reclaim the site, if you can only open 2 acres at a time, what's a normal reclamation, Rick or any less?
$3,000 an acre.
So, why don't I tell you I'm gonna put up a $50,000 performance bond before a stitch of dirt's touched out there. That's enough for how many acres? 25 acres?
lot.
20 acres? Whatever that is, I'd have to illegally have half the site all opened up, and you'd be able to have the money to go and reclaim it. Does that satisfy a $50,000 performance bond? Make that another condition?
okay, so we can put that along down here on.
We'll provide a $50,000 performance bond, which,
Along with
which
that.
also can serve as part of the small bond, the $5,000 bond, whatever Rick wants. It can be in conjunction with that for the road work, and that will satisfy the bond issue. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, I have no problem with that.
Is that bond, what does that bond cover?
The town holds that, it's your money.
Reclamation.
It's a reclamation bond.
What
You
if
can
the
go out-
building's half structured?
Well, if the building's
I'm
half,
sorry,
gonna-
I'm
who's gonna
sorry,
leave
I'm
it?
asking the question.
No, but who's gonna leave a building half-built?
A lot of people leave buildings half built.
but will the town like Nottingham, they don't have the right to go tear that 250,000 square foot building down. It's private property. The reclamation you worry about is what's gonna damage other people's property. Yeah, exposed soil, if there's a building standing there, you can't even see it from the road, who's it gonna hurt?
A half-maintained road or soil erosion.
Right,
the-
so
all
therefore it
of
gets
that.
reclaimed, you have the bond, more than enough, 5 times more money than you need to reclaim it and put it back to its natural state. So any of the site that's disturbed can be reclaimed. I mean, the building will stay there, it's out in the middle of a property, it'll be like Jurassic Park, you'll see it out there, you will never even see it from the road. What will it hurt? The townspeople, it won't.
Mr. Garrett.
Ken?
I just read the list of conditions there. I work for an engineering firm, and quite honestly, I'm astounded. If this has been going on that long, of the types of items that are on there, the degree of items. And I'm gonna ask, could somebody please read that list off for the record? Because that is a very substantial list of items. I don't understand why some of these things have not been addressed, if this has been going on that long. It's nice to ask questions and get answers. That's a substantial list for conditional approval.
That's actually a small list, Chris does this every day compared to what he puts on most plans and most
Okay.
plans.
Yes, and our engineer,
I'm gonna respectfully disagree.
well, our engineer sat down with us 2 weeks ago with the applicant, the police and the fire, and said everything was on the up and up except for one thing, and he praised that company. And why we are putting these forward, not him, we're putting these forward because of the condition that the applications were not called last time, so we want to make doggone sure before he goes forward that we got these things in our hot little hands. But you can read it.
These are the conditions that were submitted by Mr. Terrio. Number 1, procure all state and local approvals needed before starting construction on a resort, including but not limited to wetlands, including existing permit needed for existing runway, site-specific alteration of terrain permit, subsurface septic, well, transient non-community well permit, town driveway permit, town building permit, any federal or EPA permits. Provide proof of ownership or development permission agreement to the town before, provide proof of ownership or development permission agreement to town before starting construction on any properties not owned currently. That's the two properties down there. Providing pre-construction water testing results for at least three locations on Jones Brook, north side of Ridge Road, directly adjacent to the proposed resort building and at the edge of the property to the south. Then follow best management practice manual for continued testing and reporting. Provide town a copy of easement allowing snowmobiles to pass across your property on the designated trail system. I think we have an easement on that property already. Snowmobiles.
But you wanted another copy, so I'm
Yes,
gonna provide that.
All plans, manuals, and third-party reports are to be part of the approved site review and will be maintained at the town hall or designated location for official town records and will be adhered to. Those were the conditions. Then we sent Mr. Terrio a list of questions that were generated at our last meeting, and that's what this document generated there. As far as the performance bond on the reclamation, I certainly would like to include that in the conditions. However, I'm still concerned about the building. If something doesn't happen to the building, it doesn't get completed, if it's not saleable, if it's not, who's gonna, I just have a concern with that.
On the motion, we had added the attorney review as a condition.
I still want that there.
You don't want it on there?
I do.
Oh, you did. I wanted to.
I don't know about the rest of the board. I
That's
mean,
fine.
I'm not the only one here.
Because we haven't voted that on there. That's all right.
The review of the condition, I mean, that's what you're asking.
Yeah, the review of the conditions.
She just needs to clarify that, because it says review, so review of conditions.
Conditional upon attorney review. Did I get that wrong?
Of conditions.
Of conditions. Thank you, I get that.
And the applicant will provide $50,000.
But you gotta vote on the first amendment.
I know.
We're still having discussion.
Well, that's part of the condition, though.
No, I mean, but add that
Yeah,
on.
we had it first, we had a second, we got a vote on it.
Well,
Got a
no,
all.
wait a minute. We have a motion on the floor to accept the conditions. We don't have all the conditions.
To accept the site plan
We can't, if we accept the site plan conditions,
conditionally.
we don't have all the conditions. We don't have the surety bond or the performance bond in there.
But you need to amend that
You
first.
need to amend,
Okay.
He's right, you need to
you
amend
need to
that first.
amend your motion.
Amend our condition, make a motion to amend.
All right.
But get the other conditions, the bond first on there if you
I want
want.
to make a motion that the applicant provide a $50,000 performance bond for mitigation, reclamation.
And add the other one to your, the attorney review. 'Cause you
We got the attorney.
Attorney reviews.
And then there was a talk about a site walk by the planning board.
Everybody's just gonna go through, right? We know what they're gonna do.
Snowshoes.
We can have a site drive or something.
Okay. Any discussion? I have some discussion.
You're still under discussion.
Okay. I'm uncomfortable with moving as fast as we have. You have given us everything we've asked. I don't disagree that there is a lot of stuff here that needs to be put in some kind of form that we can all understand and the public can understand as to what we're voting on. I am inclined to vote no, but I would request a 30-day extension for us to get this all together.
That's what I just.
I would request a 30-day extension. I am uncomfortable actually with what we have and how it goes together. I know I have this isn't a very professional document here, and either is this. I mean, you provided one, but we made a lot of notes. I would, before we vote on anything, I would prefer to have some extra time.
But respectfully, you've already said that this isn't an issue, but you've answered all these things, and those are the only outstanding issues.
In terms of all the documents together, they're everywhere. And I agree with what Mr. Gary said.
We have 3 documents.
They're all over the place. We've all looked at them, I hope. But in terms of reviewing them for one last time to make sure that we've got everything that we actually want, because when we do a conditional, no matter what it is, we do a conditional tonight, nothing can be added, nothing. Zip, nada. And I'm not saying we'll find anything. I'm not saying we will. But I'm nervous. I don't know. I just like some more time, personally. Yes, sir.
Just a suggestion is if you were to recess for 30 days, because you're right, if you have your lawyer look at this, you put that as a condition that have your lawyer look at it.
Mhm.
But if your lawyer finds other problems, I don't think you can change them.
No, we can't.
So
we really can't.
you
So
need to
really-
have your lawyer look at it first, and then vote for a conditional approval. That would be my suggestion.
I mean, you spoke to the lawyer, Roger, right?
Yeah, but we haven't, in terms of, you know, I'm not comfortable with it, I'm sorry, I'm just not.
But when is the point that we say we are comfortable 2 years from now? 6 years from now?
That's unreasonable, Roger.
No, I'm not being unreasonable.
at the
What I'm
last
being
meeting,
is
Let me
I
just,
want to finish.
okay.
We keep asking the applicant to do stuff, and the applicant keeps coming back to us. We sent him a 31-layer list out there, and he came back and said, look, 90% of it's on your plans already that you have. And we confirmed that tonight. And those are the questions we asked for. Here's another thing that he's coming back and saying, this is what I gotta do before I can even stick a spade in the ground. And all along, the board has been saying, these are what we want before you stick a spade in the ground. Now we're going back and saying, oh yeah, these are what we want before you stick a spade in the ground, but we want 2 more things added, and then we want to make sure that the one-eyed frog out there don't get displaced. I'm getting to the point, I'm getting tired. I'm ready to approve. That's why I said I'm ready to approve. Let's do it, let's put the conditions in, and let's go forward. Quit dragging this guy through.
Check. Would it be unreasonable, instead of a 30-day, to give us an additional 2 weeks for us as a board to get our stuff together, to make that final decision? Would that hurt you?
But, I mean, I don't know what the future brings. I mean, every day that we wait, you know.
I understand that, and I know you
I
have,
had
you
3
need to answer.
people lined up, the one's gone. The one that was probably ready to do this in a week to fund it. So the longer you wait, who knows what the process goes. But I don't wanna do anything that somebody will come back and say, hey, these guys grossly misrepresented, and the planning board grossly put the town at risk, we're gonna appeal this. You've had 3 other outside review agencies, including your attorney, that's looked at things right from the get-go, Stratford, the town engineer, and they've all come back and said, this is amazing. These guys have gone way beyond what most people do. What would we find that would be more? That, if there was something that I told Jack all the way through this, when we kept, not by our fault, by things that happened, not by John's fault, things that happened, and we said, let's work. We want to make sure this is done right. And we all understand that things happen, but we've gone beyond what even needed to be done to
No,
make
no,
sure.
I don't, look, everything you presented here, I'm fine with everything you've done. But the problem is being new to the planning board and stuff like that, and get my feet with and stuff like that.
Right.
On the biggest projects this town's ever had, I'm inclined to vote no at this point myself.
Right. But
I
it's
want
both-
this, I want this to be
Right.
so successful, I want this to happen in this town, more than you know.
Right, right.
But, to go to John's point is we don't have individually here as a board, as pointed out by Mr. Gary, our ducks in a row.
But why
And we
don't you
need-
though?
But that's a good question, we should, because everybody here has other things to do, we're all
No,
part-timers,
I'm not,
and we need to sit down collectively, the five of us, get our stuff in a row, come back in 2 weeks, boom, we can go down through it, and at that point, I'll be satisfied and I'll vote for it in 2 seconds.
how long does it go on? I mean, we've done that, and last meeting you
I
told
know.
us in front of these people that was already gonna be done for you.
I'm sorry.
All you
but
were waiting
did.
for was
I
Stratford
said-
Regional, and Stratford said, these
You
guys
said
are doing an
it's-
awesome job.
There's
You
no,
said as soon as we get the report from Stratford Regional, we'll get together and we'll meet with you on the 27th and
okay, so the
whatever.
question goes out, if Stratford County come back and they had all kinds of issues, and the answers weren't answers like that, would that prolong the program?
Absolutely, but they
Okay,
came back and
so-
said that it was
But they
good.
came back.
I know, but if it had gone the other way, you would have had more time involved of waiting. You're in the same situation. Instead of 30 days, I'm saying 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking for is 2 weeks. I think we can, as a board, can get this together and do this the proper way, so the next time you come back, and at that point, I will have no problem voting on this conditionally, or whatever. 2 weeks is not a lot of time to ask. I know it is in some way financially what you're talking about, but
I don't know.
At this point,
I don't know
you know,
if it is.
like you said, it could have gone the other way.
The one that's
you could've
gone
been-
was the one that I was more comfortable with.
Yeah.
So, because it was supposed to happen.
And now that's just my suggestion, I don't know how the other members feel like that, but I think if we can get together and do this, it would be a beneficial thing for all of us. I don't want to sit there and represent the town and do something wrong, not knowing I didn't have the information or didn't understand the information. I understand what you're doing, I'm behind it, I promise you I am. But all these other issues that are lingering on by everybody here is not good.
But let's go through
We
the
have to have a
issues.
certainty with
But
that.
if he's presented everything you've asked for,
Okay, that's
and it's your housekeeping issue,
Okay, if we,
that shouldn't penalize him, should it?
yeah, well, no, but we have to maintain that we have, we have to ensure that we have, yes, he's given us all the things that we've asked for. Okay, so now we gotta go through these things again. I would like to go through them.
We just did it. We
I
just
would
did
like to
36
go
things and
through
spent 2
them
hours doing it.
again. This is, I'm sorry, I
We
would.
just spent it, and so if you have other issues or concerns that we haven't just addressed, let's address them. If you got one other.
I don't know what they are.
But you won't know a year from now, something else will come up. I mean, when, like,
That's not,
He
that's
said-
not right.
So in 2 weeks, you got to put your stuff together, 2 weeks you give him time to have purchase and sale agreements, come back and
Well, there's a lot of- there's a-
have a $50,000 bond
There's
in
a lot
hand.
of conditions.
No, I
Okay.
understand that, John, but what I'm saying is, this paperwork he still hasn't provided, he needs to provide that before you should give him the agreement.
No,
He's-
that's part of the condition.
That's,
He hasn't got the purchase and sale
But
agreement.
that's part of the,
signed.
that is part of the
There's a
condition.
$50,000 bond, he can sit here and he's blue in the face and say $50,000 bond, bring the insurance in and show it, bring the bond in on paper and show
That's
it.
one of the conditions.
Part of the condition.
Well, till it's in hand and in with the whole thing, and the whole thing is put together nicely.
And that's what I just told you, Janet, he cannot drop a spade to the ground until the conditions
Then
are
go with
met.
go with like Joe said, 2 weeks, have everything in a nice little binder, have all his paperwork together, everything's together, and then you just go ahead and vote on it.
but there's not a binder. You have this that I provided, you have this
I'm talking-
extra plan, and you have this final plan. That's what, we have nothing else to bring you. We have nothing else to bring you guys. There's nothing we're gonna provide in this next 2 weeks that's not sitting here, and we've gone through every
Exactly.
question
But I'm not,
and addressed every
I'm
concern.
not asking the 2 weeks for you. I'm asking for the 2 weeks for us.
But what do you wanna look at? That's my,
I-
I've been on tons of boards since I was 18 years old. And this is the process that you run into. What else?
I'm not looking for any extra information from you. I haven't sat on all these boards since I was 18 years old. I've been on this for 3 months maybe. Unfortunately, for you, I mean, you know, you agreed to one here, and I need to know I'm doing the right thing for the taxpayers of this town and protecting them. You know, that's my duty.
Well,
At
you're
the same
actually doing an
token,
injustice by waiting. If
I know.
everything's provided, I'm just
I
laying it out
agree with
there.
you.
We're doing more of an injustice by waiting the longer we wait. Because everybody in this town is ready to lynch people if this doesn't happen because it drags on,
Well,
right? right, Roger?
No, so
What I
we're
hear from
gonna be
people-
a little separate.
This is a
This
thing
is gonna
that,
be a lynching either
wow,
way.
what, no, but this is just
What I-
crazy that it goes on and on and on. I mean, if everything is met and
No,
everything is
Now,
conditioned,
what I make a recommendation before the board is, if we pull the question, or the motion, that, no, we know what conditions we wanna set for tonight. We have them written down. We have them here, we have the extra ones. No, absolutely no extra conditions can be put on board because we thought of something else, 15 other things. We got to make a decision.
So we're gonna make a decision. I haven't read the wetlands impact study. That's going to be provided, that's conditional. I mean, if I read that and I find that, oh, I should have done something else, or they positioned something poorly, I don't know how I can go back.
well, we can't move stuff, we can't change anything. You're approving the plan
Well, I haven't seen the wetlands.
if you change.
It's part of the conditions.
It's
Right,
on the-
well,
it's
if
on
there's
the plan.
something in the wetlands plan,
No, it's on the plan.
the impact, the
It's
wetlands
The
impact.
impact is definitely on the plan, it's been listed as the.
Where's
The
your plan?
written report that's required by the site plan review.
It's right here. It's right here, that they can't move forward unless wetland, dredge and fill and everything
No,
else is
according to our
presented.
site plan, there's supposed to be a written report about the impact of the wetlands upon the thing. It's right there, and I saw it, the site plan review, I brought it up every meeting, you keep telling me you're gonna come up with it, and I haven't
So-
seen it yet.
So, what did you just say?
Oh, for God's sake.
While she's looking for that, could I make an observation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Savage.
My thought is that how the conditions are set out is important. It's important to the planning board. The wording of those conditions, that they adequately represent what you want, and they have, and included in their sureties that those conditions are met. And I don't hear that our planning board has had the time and the consultation with our attorney to have that wording correct. And so I don't know how you could vote without doing that. I would also observe that the Stratford Regional Planning report would raise some issues that had more recent action. My reading of their report was that they felt that Ridge Road, in fact, would have greater traffic impact, and that a lot of the traffic would be traveling the length of Ridge Road. I don't know whether that's true or not, but to the extent that could be true, and to the extent that might have impact on the town's upkeep of Ridge Road, and there was talk about lining Ridge Road, painting a line on Ridge Road, costing. I think you want to make that, if that happens to be the case, there is a provision for ensuring that the town doesn't have to take on those costs. There is new information that you're just grappling with now, and that's fair. And it's fair to make sure that you get your conditions correct.
Jack's absolutely right about the wording of the conditions.
I agree.
So I guess I'm saying that this is not going out and fishing for 16 different things. It's making sure that you absolutely have put together correctly. If something's going to be done well, and I've heard the applicant talk about wanting to do this well, then it needs to be done well regulatorily as well. And with all due respect, we're dealing with an applicant who's got an outstanding wetlands violation that he hasn't rectified. Why this is going forward at all without that first being taken care of is a bit...
And whose fault was that?
It-
That was the town's fault for not checking on that project. And we have an individual that we have hired
I'm
that's
not here
gonna
to
check
place-
on the project.
I'm just pointing out that it's not unreasonable for us as a town to be cautious and to make sure that the wording that we have ensures that what we feel we need and what we're being promised ends up coming out that way.
We thought we had all the wording and all the conditions and everything set forward in that one project, and what happened? We forgot to put in somebody overseeing the project.
Well, take the lesson, Roger.
And that's what we did. We took the lesson and we made sure we're saying, look, Chuck, you don't put a shovel in the ground until you meet these conditions. And also meet the previous conditions. Because we, as a planning board, can pull that plan. And we're trying not to.
I've said my piece.
I would still like, Mr. Gary.
I disagree with the assessment that the town had an obligation to ensure an owner of a property had to comply with state wetlands requirements, and that's what I think I just heard. That is not the town's obligation. It's an oversight that we have an obligation to do, but it's the obligation of a property owner to in fact comply with state law. And I think the applicant, the owner knows that, and they're taking appropriate action to remedy it. So I don't want to see it get conjured up or interpreted by anybody in this room that that was a fault of the town.
It was not a fault of the
I think the
town.
owner and the applicant is taking the proper redress. I think Jack's just merely pointing out it has not been redressed yet.
It was not the fault of the town. The problem is we, as a planning board, said, hey, look, we don't want this to happen again. So we will put on an engineer to oversee the project. There's another terminology they use because it's a legal type thing. But he reports back to us. Now, I can't help it if the DES don't have enough people up there to come out and check on a project and stuff like that. But in our case here, as we sat here and said, look, he didn't pull his permits before. We're a little concerned he might do the same thing again. So we're saying, we want all your permits pulled before you do it, before you start the project. And that's what you see here. It's all, and that's what he's agreed to.
Well, that's certainly not a legal document, don't we have to?
If it goes on the plans,
I think we need a review by an attorney, just make sure,
The
because we're talking about the attorney as having overlooked this plan. She only looked at one small portion of what was legal easement. She hasn't looked over this plan.
when I talked to the attorney this week, Monday, her recommendation was 3. We have the conditions put on the plan. We have the conditions written up, and then the third, and we agree on it. The third thing was that if Stratford County would accept the conditions as part of the plans, they will stamp it and they will put it along with his information.
So these plans do get recorded with Stratford County?
As far as I know, they're gonna have to be.
Site plans don't. But
That's what I thought.
I think what he's talking about is recording.
There's recording
what we call the NOD, the notice of
Along with the stuff. I told John this. John called Stratford County, and Stratford County said, yes, we do take these type of things and do put them along with the project.
They
So-
record the notice of decision
Thank
with
you.
conditions.
With conditions, right?
They don't record the actual plans for site plans, but they record that you got the approval for it and that the plans are on record at the town, so anybody can view them, and that these are the conditions. So it's public record.
I'm in, if you give us till the next meeting, I will pull my motion. But I don't wanna go any deeper into another what if with 15 other people sitting in here.
Well, I mean, what does it take? I mean, how long do you guys need to, I mean, the list is 8 things. what do you guys want, 2 weeks to look at it? I mean, would that be enough to give you guys time to look at it?
Let the attorney look at it, let the attorney word it.
Right. I mean, I don't know about that, just let the attorney, don't let her word it, let her tell you if that's legal or not.
Right.
Don't let him word it, because it'll be 8 pages long.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's the performance bond, it's the assurances, there's quite a few conditions there. I don't think the, I think, maybe I misunderstood, is the engineer going to be over, I thought he was just gonna be overseeing the engineering, is he also going to be overseeing the,
Yeah, I looked.
permitting?
I did look at the contract.
You gotta remember,
And he will be overseeing the
Yeah.
permitting? Well, that's positive.
So, if we do it for 2 more weeks, we'll go look at this list, if the attorney says that it's okay, then we'll come back and
Well,
we're just gonna have a meeting to have the final approval.
I think in those 2 weeks, I would prefer 30, but in those 2 weeks, it would give us an opportunity to put this all together so that we know what we're doing and what we're voting on, what we're looking at. I kind of agree with Joe there in terms of that we have everything, and if we find something or we think, it comes up, then it comes up.
Yeah, then we address it, absolutely.
We address it,
Right,
but
I'm not worried about that.
it is, the information is here, but it's not in a concise form that I'm comfortable looking at. I mean, I'm not, so.
But that's what I'm asking you, if it's not comfortable, what do we need to provide you to make comfortable? We're not gonna give you anything else.
You don't need to provide
It's not you,
anything,
Chuck.
Okay.
it's us.
Right.
It's us to make sure that what we have discussed here tonight in terms of these conditions that you,
Oh, all right.
that you propose to do, okay?
Well, they're not those, his,
Well, we've had
Oh.
these conditions.
oh, right, that we
Okay.
addressed, right, I see what you're saying.
We're not approving this. We're approving this, and that's what we need to make sure that what we are approving. Because this is your list here was incorporated in our list here. Then we had additional questions that were brought up that were addressed. And I have notes in terms of additional conditions here, all testing of water quality.
But that's what I'm saying, if it's gonna materially change between now and then, that's fine, but if we've addressed all the issues.
But we need to put them, I've got them here. I need to put them in some kind of form.
But
It's
that's what I
not
asked
you,
if
it's
you
not
had-
you, it's the board. I think the board needs to be a little more diligent in terms of what they're looking at, that's all I'm gonna say.
But that's why I was asking you, if there was other issues on these 36
Not
things.
that I can see right now,
Okay.
but, I'm not comfortable making a motion on notes. I'm not, so.
Because you made a lot of promises, like the culverts and all of that, and it's hard to see all of that contained in one report.
What do you mean?
Oh, you know it, I don't know what I'm saying.
Just wanted to clarify that for
Never
everybody.
mind,
You
yes.
understand what you just said?
Can we back that up?
We got
Well,
that
I'm
on
still waiting for the
camera?
lynch mob, Chuck.
I'm gonna be at the head of it getting lynched, so don't worry about it.
culverts and everything around here.
No, he knows specifically what
What do
I'm
you think?
talking about.
You agree with 2
Yeah,
weeks?
2 weeks is fine, I mean, and just don't let it come to next Wednesday, next Thursday morning, and then we get another 72 things, and you say, can you address these, and then we're not gonna be sure at this meeting, because that's what we got yesterday, 36 items, and we addressed them all, and we sat down here for 2 hours and
And
said,
we-
no, it's all in the plan. And, I mean, it's fine if other issues come up that aren't addressed, or this is what happens at every single meeting, you address the issues, and then, we've heard 3 times now that there's no more issues on this, and you've added 2 more issues to that, that's all you have for issues, but we wanna wait to look at it, which is fine, but
But you
take
just
the
said,
diligence.
okay, I've taken your plans, I've looked at them, I've read all the notes and stuff like that. And when it comes to wetlands and all this other stuff, I look at this stuff, I think I know what I'm looking at, but I'm not 100% sure.
Are you gonna know in 2 weeks?
If we get together, we discuss it, I'll have a better understanding of it and feel a lot more comfortable about it.
Okay.
It's not because I don't look, I try to understand it,
Right.
but there's a lot to this. When you go for wetlands and you got your flood plans, all this other stuff, there's a lot to absorb in a short time to do this. And,
Right.
and.
But
and
that's why
for
you
us
have
to
these
get-
meetings.
Exactly, but if we get to collectively get together,
That's what we're doing tonight.
I mean, a board, and we take all the stuff and put it in a format that we understand, we all understand it, we know what we're doing with it, And I think we do that in 2 weeks, it's just put stuff
And
in
you had a
order.
meeting last Thursday?
We had a regular meeting. It was a
So,
regular meeting.
I mean,
Was this
I-
discussed at the meeting?
Yes.
you
Because
guys-
we weren't
You
notified.
need to notify.
And
them.
that-
Yeah, we weren't notified of
And
that.
those 30-some odd questions came out of that meeting.
I mean, by law, you gotta notify us so we can come and address those things at the meeting. with that.
Well, okay.
Just so we know,
It came up as old business, so then we expanded onto that, so.
but at your last meeting, you should have publicly noticed that you were gonna even discuss the project. So just procedurally, it's not a big deal, but if anything comes out of that meeting, there should have been another public session, that people, it was a notice meeting to be talking about
It's
this.
a
I didn't
regular
know that.
planning board meeting, all they have to do is post it, and if they post an agenda, that's all they have to do.
No, you actually have to physically
You have to say what you're gonna
say what you're
cover.
gonna be doing, and you
Right,
have
on
to
the
continue the
agenda,
public
right.
hearing for the next,
Right.
with public hearings like
If
this
it's a
is
public
tonight.
hearing, if it was not a public hearing, they don't have to notify you.
Was a public.
It was. But that's fine. So, let's come back in 2 weeks, that's good. That's fine. I mean, but if you're gonna have if you guys,
I think we'll all feel a little bit more comfortable with this.
right,
As a planning board, we need to get together, figure out a time and a date to do our own workshop.
right, but we should come there to answer the questions like we did the last one. So if you wanna do that next Thursday night, we can come and address all the issues at a work session. And then, just like we did 3 weeks ago, so that everything's addressed. We wanna make sure everything's addressed for you guys. So if there's questions that come up, like we got these 36 things, we could have pointed that out in the plan and you wouldn't have had to make a list of 36 things. And then, so if that meeting you had last Thursday, if we were to come to that, we would have addressed, and we would have been in a different place now. So if you're gonna get together, if you wanna schedule next Thursday night to have the work session, are you okay with that? And then we come back the following
It's
Thursday
up to
night?
these guys, if they have the time and that's a good date, whatever.
I mean,
I'm not
that's
sure.
up to you guys,
2
but,
weeks.
but,
That's insufficient time.
what do you wanna do? I didn't hear.
That's insufficient time.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have to be a Thursday, it can be whatever. I mean, it's up to the board to figure out the timing on it, so.
Must be, 'cause it's not on here.
My only thing is I don't wanna really hold you up any longer than we have to, but we need to get this thing done, and it's on us as a board to fix it.
Right.
Internally.
Right.
Internally.
So do you wanna get together in 2 weeks to have that, the meeting to
That'll put
discuss
us-
everything then?
That'll put us to, 50,
13.
13th, Friday 13th.
right.
Call it lucky shot, Friday 13th.
Gentlemen from the
Thursday
borough,
the
had a
13th.
suggestion.
I have a suggestion, I feel your pain, believe me. What I would suggest is have the board meet, probably with your engineer and your attorney, yourselves, and discuss your own problems. Your own engineer should be able to answer any questions you have. I think all the documents you need are in front of you.
Yeah,
I think so.
But I think you,
And have your attorney there to finalize
Yes.
your approval language. I would absolutely do that.
and I think that the town engineer.
Then you
already
can
has-
have a public hearing, and it'll probably last about 15 minutes when you have your final public hearing. Once you get all of your own internal questions answered by your attorney and your town engineer, I think you all be
so
much
from
more
a
comfortable.
time frame point of view, 1 week is not sufficient.
Probably not. I don't know what your engineer and
No,
attorney
no,
schedules
No,
are.
it's not, I can
So,
tell you that right now.
Yeah,
So-
probably 2 weeks would
So
probably
2
be
weeks could be sufficient time
for you to meet, and then you
for
can
us
have
to
it.
meet at a workshop with
Yeah.
with the attorney and with our
Engineer.
engineer. And then,
With all due respect, Mark does not need to be here. He was here
He said that we're
4
done.
weeks ago and said that we were all set.
We haven't changed anything
We
since.
haven't changed anything since then.
He's totally reviewing.
well,
I mean, it's up to you guys.
that
Yeah.
will, yeah, that,
Yeah, I mean, call him and see if he wants to come back.
I
for
will
sure.
certainly do that. Then, once we have that together, and clarify what we need to do, and if there's anything that comes, that's our next regular,
20th would be our regular
meeting, the 20th, which is,
Right, so that
but
gives
we,
us
but we
two,
need,
that gives us,
The 20th is the second Thursday of the month?
oh, no, it's Thursday.
No,
Thursday.
13th.
the 13th. I would,
I was serious the 13th.
what's that?
We need to have this done by the 13th.
Yeah, but are we gonna be able to get the town attorney's opinion?
I don't know.
I know she was on vacation last week, she's
Yeah,
back
well,
this week.
she'll be back, I am sure she will be back, because everybody in New Hampshire is on vacation. So, I would prefer to have a window to allow us to arrange for the attorney to be here even prior to that,
Oh, yes.
okay? And then on the regular meeting, which is, and you have hearing or hearing? That's not, that's a different hearing.
Audiology.
Okay, well, that's different.
How about this, how about if we make the 13th that meeting, if she can show up, and if there's no issue, then we can approve it, do it all in one meeting.
No, I think what we would wanna do is, sit down and make sure that the language is correct. Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
So write up the language, give you the language, you come into the next meeting and vote on that language.
Well, how about this, why don't I come to that meeting that you're meeting on, extend this
No.
for that, why not?
You can come to the meeting, but
But if she writes up the language and I have no problem with it, why wait for another meeting? That
I
doesn't
don't
make
wanna,
any sense.
I wanna, if we're gonna be doing exactly what we're doing here. We're gonna be going down and making notes and so forth and so on. So if she says, now certainly, we're gonna communicate to her as what, this is what I'm proposing. What we have discussed tonight, all these conditions that we've set forth. What is the language? Is the language correct? Are we doing the right thing on these conditions, so forth and so on? Now, for her to come in and say, yeah, those are okay, I know you're trying to push it through.
No, what I'm saying is, if she can review it before then, and then she comes to the meeting, or if she says these are all good, whatever, and that 13th meeting.
Well, we need time, frankly, we need time to put this all together, and this is, I need time.
He needs time because he's doing it.
I know, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if you're gonna have that meeting, we should extend this meeting to then.
Recess it.
Yep, and continue it on that date, because you can't have another meeting. It's against the law to have a meeting that's not notified that you're moving that
Well, we
public
can
hearing.
recess.
Any board can meet with their own council whenever they want.
No, listen, they had a
That's what
public
they're
hearing.
discussing. They're not,
They had a public hearing last Thursday
I
night on this
understand that,
project.
that was not, I
Right,
wish I knew
so
about
that's what I'm
that.
saying, let's extend this public hearing until the 13th.
Us too.
I understood.
Well, the issue with that one last Thursday was it's under old business, and we had this thing come up from the regional planning, we started discussing it. And that's where the questions came up from, and that's why you got it. It wasn't like an
No,
intentional
no.
meeting to circumvent you guys.
But that's what I want to avoid.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, not everybody's perfect, so,
Right.
you know?
No, and there's been lots of those not perfect things throughout this whole thing, and I understand that, you know, nobody's perfect.
I would
Not me.
propose that we recess until the next scheduled meeting.
Can we really recess a public meeting until then?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Long word.
But I gotta pull my motion and second that.
But what I would like to do is to recess it until the 13th, if you're gonna meet on that time, and reconvene on that time. And you should always, if you're discussing it with your attorney, if you're gonna have a private meeting about the project with your attorney, he's right, you can, about the legality of what you're gonna approve. But if you're gonna have a discussion, a public discussion, then it should be continued.
Oh,
until-
absolutely. And that's what we're talking about. We want to have a private discussion with our attorney about the project to ensure that as a board, we are doing things the correct way, and it's, the terminology is the correct way.
She
So
could
we don't
put
let,
language
we don't leave a loophole
into
someplace
what
because
is-
we know what we're doing.
So all you want is time to confer with your attorney.
Exactly.
To make
So-
sure we haven't left ourselves wide open for.
Sorry,
And give us the right language.
And I think it's the, you know,
I
I'm just,
don't know that either, but yes.
I understand the time. I mean,
That's all we got.
so in 2 weeks, I think we could pull this off. In the meantime, we can have a private meeting with our attorney, and
We would notice that.
we don't have to.
Well,
No,
we
you
don't
don't
have
have
to
to
notice
notice that.
Consultation with
You're
council, no.
We're
You're
just
consulting with
talking.
your attorney.
All right, we'll do that, we'll recess. Okay, you wanna pull your motion, or you gonna pull your, you gonna vote, or are you gonna pull your motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to cancel my
Motion.
motion.
I'll second.
And,
He's gonna pull the second.
I second.
thunder, man.
Sorry.
Now,
Gee, no one a second.
We have to have some semblance of Robert's rules.
right.
No.
We don't go by Robert's
Well, what rules do you go by?
John's
rules.
Mason's jungle rules? or-
Jungle.
Mason's rules,
Mason's
that's even
rules?
more complex. You wanna get
I don't know
involved with
Mason.
Robert's rules.
John Mason.
They don't use Robert's rules, no,
Don't do
no.
that. Mason's rules is worse, I can tell you. Okay,
I
so,
can-
all those in favor of pulling the motion?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now, I make a motion that we recess this meeting until,
We can get,
13 March.
no, wait, until,
we'll just recess until,
March.
the second, March 13th, Thursday at 6:30.
okay.
All right?
All right.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, other business for tonight.
Oh, wait, we still have the agenda.
Now, what, in the interim?
Well, we'll have to check with the, well,
We'll
what I'll
change the sheet
do, what
when
I'll
they-
do is on Monday, I will call the attorney and see how fast. Right, and I will, over the weekend, put a summary of what we've done here. Yeah, I need you,
I will be here.
I need you to help us.
I am.
Also,
How about you?
the last bit of business we have. Thank everyone for their patience, I think.
I was a little confused there.
13th, you will have an answer.
13th at 6:30.
Yeah, we'll be back here on the 13th.
Yeah.
Good. All right, I understand now. I understand now. I was not following.
Thank you for your patience.
Trying to do it right. We want to do it right, but all I was trying to get at was how we can change anything. No, I mean, I understand what
More
you guys want to do.
information, no, we need to make sure that we have the information.
That's what I'm saying, if you need us
I
to
need
print
to
out
make
something,
sense of it.
let us know so we can bring it.
Okay.
There's nothing more you can give us at this point.
That's,
Other than,
Given the numbers, what we know, we gotta put it together.
okay, we're still in session here. We have some minutes to approve here. We have the minutes of Thursday, January 9th. You all have, I've sent you copies.
I've read it, yeah.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes,
I think I'm sorry.
January 9th?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, this one.
Forgot your name.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you tell me what S is?
Oh, all right, I forgot the S.
Okay, next one I have is planning board minutes to our January 16th. I had it up on the agenda originally as the 24th. That's when the minutes were drafted, but it's the 16th, and that had to do with the hearing on outdoor wire,
Wood stove.
wood stoves, for a better term upon it. There were only 3 of us there, which was a quorum, which was Joe. Right here. Not much there.
I make a motion that we set the minutes as written.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Right.
You can't vote, you
You
might.
have to abstain.
Well, was it there for
I
that one?
wasn't there, I abstained,
Yeah,
2
you-
abstentions.
Yeah, I was there for
Oh,
that.
I
No, you
wasn't
weren't.
there, I was not
No, you
here,
weren't.
right? God, you guys are good. Why am I
Where was I?
doing this? Old business?
There we go, one more,
We have
one more.
Oh, so sorry, I thought we did those.
These are minutes of the meeting on February 20th. Those were the minutes that you cut out so quickly that I couldn't believe it. They came flying out of there almost the same day. This is
Yeah, it's
last
the only
week.
way I can do it, or they don't get
This
done.
was last week. This was,
Everybody got emails.
But what was what's the fire chief's name?
the fire chief's
Yeah.
name,
Oral,
M-O-R?
Sam Merrill.
oral.
M-O-R?
R-I-L-L.
And the guy that was with him?
Jason Purrington.
Thank you.
You want to amend the minutes for that?
I gotta amend the minutes, because didn't you, I asked you to read them and, because I wanted the fire chief's name and the other
I
guys.
didn't catch that. I got so many,
Yeah, you guys are reading my
I
minutes.
have so many
I'm beginning
emails,
to
I don't even
wonder.
know how to manage them. Okay, so,
Under other guy, I'll put.
other guy, that was,
You want me to make a motion to,
oh, okay, yeah.
to accept the amended minutes of February 20th, 2014?
Okay, let me amend them here. Because I'll, it's Sam, right?
Sam Morrill. And Jason Purington,
Morrill, M-O,
R-R-I-L-L.
okay. And, he's
Jason?
is he the deputy?
Is Jason the deputy?
Is he the deputy?
I'm not sure what else
Okay,
his name is.
and Jason,
Purington.
okay, wait a minute.
What am I doing?
What's his last name?
Purington, P-U-R-I-N-G-T-O-N.
That must be Irish. Okay, I hear a motion.
I just made the motion.
Oh, yeah, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. All right, old business, any old business?
Did you get any feedback from the mergers of the lots the last time? Anybody? No. Okay.
Did you,
From your mergers or what?
did you record
I
that?
recorded it the next day.
Nothing's come back.
They usually come back to Pam.
Right, I have them address it back to the town.
I haven't seen Pam since,
Was she on vacation this
I
week?
don't know, it's been over a week or so.
Oh, wow.
Could be on vacation, I don't know.
I think she said something about vacation. So I just wanted to make sure that nothing had been.
No, I haven't seen anything, and I usually check that probably twice a week or so.
But they were recorded.
Okay, good. All right, that's good. Okay. Any other business?
I make a motion to adjourn.
We don't have
No, we
any
can't. I can't make
community
a
input?
motion.
No, we can't.
Community,
Okay, we're on recess.
We have
Okay.
community input.
Do we have any community input?
We have
We've had community input.
Ken's got the
Well,
last.
it's on the agenda.
I make a motion to recess.
Well, we're recessed.
You want to
Second.
recess?
Actually, you know, technically, we recessed before we did all the old business.
Yeah, we did. We recessed from the public hearing to go into the
Right.
meeting, but were we still are we still in the hearing or?
Well,
Am
we're
I going to
recessed.
jail?
I don't know.
What are they gonna do, take my birthday away?
Yeah.
I don't know, they get paid while they're there, and it's like vacation, so, alright, send me away.
3 hearts and a cot, what do you want?
Okay,
Just
All
got
right.
that on, right?
we're in recess.
We're done.
Good.
We're in recess.
Thank you very
So we
much.
can't-
The next meeting is March 13th at 6:30.
13th, yes.
Good.
Make sure you pipe that into their jail cell.
Oh my
so you
God.
Keep
Hey,
watching
that's the
over
day
and
before
over.
that town meeting.
Yeah,
So we
I,
gotta,
Meeting we were
Continual
supposed to
loop.
post. We did post it.
Oh, the 13th is town meeting?
50.
Do you have the
50.
Fifty.
is-
wood boiler ordinance in front of you, by any chance?
So what?
What is it?